Chapter 11:10. What's the matter? Leah held onto Gu Mingming's shoulders and asked. Gu Mingming took a deep breath and said, "The tear of the beast deity, kiss of the ocean, love of the sky, soul of the forest, heart of the desert, spirit of the rocky cliffs and key of the beast king are the 7 treasures of the beast world. These 7 treasures are the divine items of the beast world. With any one of them, you can activate the bloodline of the beast king and dominate the beast world. If you gather all 7, you can open the doors of time and space." Elvis and Leah froze. The moment the words doors of time and space came out, it was as if everything in this world had frozen. Elvis and Leah even forgot to breathe and just stared at Gu Mingming blankly. In the next moment, the blood in their bodies boiled like white smoke rolling in ice. It looked surging, but there was no warmth at all. It was bone-chilling. Elvis scooped Gu Mingming into his arms and hugged her tightly. He clenched his teeth and could not say a word. His blood-red eyes widened, and in that instant, his eyeballs were filled with red veins. It was frighteningly hideous. Lee's throat let out a low trembling cry. It was not anger or sadness, but the echo of an uncontrollable trembling under extreme fear. 4 words. Gu Mingming only used 4 words to scare the black and white duo that every tribe in the beast world feared so much that they felt chills all over their bodies and their souls left their bodies. "No more, we won't give birth." Lee's voice was full of determination and trembling. There was no hesitation at all. Nothing in this world could be compared to Gu Mingming. They did not even have the right to be compared. If he had to risk losing Gu Mingming to obtain something, he would rather destroy the world. He did not want anything but Gu Mingming. Gu Mingming sighed. She did not dare to say it all along because she was afraid that things would turn out like this. She thought that Elvis and Leah dared to let her enter the lake meant that they were not that afraid that she would leave. So, that person was already forcing himself to believe her. The words doors of time and space were still too serious for them. Hugging Elvis back gently, Gu Mingming said softly, "Don't panic, let me finish." His ears were ringing and his mind was filled with Gu Mingming's words, "You can open the doors of time and space." The way she cried and said she wanted to leave, the way she smiled and thanked him before lying in the middle of the lake, the way she curled up in a corner and said she did not belong here, all he could think of was the way she wanted to abandon him. Fear, every inch of Elvis's nerves was telling him that he was extremely afraid. Even though he was holding her like this, he still couldn't shake off the fear of losing her in the next second. Gu Mingming knew that their emotions were fluctuating too much. She had tried to communicate with them several times but to no avail. They were so shocked by this news that they could not listen to anything else she said. Elvis hugged her tightly while Lee's eyes were fixed on her. He felt as if the knife would disappear if he blinked. Gu Mingming sighed and patted Elvis's back lightly, calling him over and over again, "Hubby, hubby, Hugging Gu Mingming until her entire body was numb, Elvis finally heard her calling and squeezed out a dry sound from his throat. Chapter 11:11. I know. It was just 3 simple words, but it was as if Elvis's entire chest had been torn apart. He knew, all his rationality told him that Gu Mingming would not leave him. They also had such blissful days, Huda and his brothers whom she cared about, Leah whom she liked, Sandy whom she cared about, but even though he knew, he still felt uneasy. Even though he was hugging her like this, he still felt that she could slip away from his fingers in the next second, just like a gust of wind, just like a handful of sand, just like the sunlight that could not be held back, just like the ocean waves that could not be held back. But I can't control myself, I'm still afraid. Gu Mingming held Elvis's face with both hands and kissed him deeply on the lips. Elvis was stunned at first, then he kissed her back crazily. If she wanted a kiss, he would give her the hottest kiss. He could satisfy all her needs, really. As long as she didn't leave, as long as she stayed, as long as she didn't abandon him, he could do anything, really. Really, Elvis's kiss was lingering, passionate and urgent. His uneasiness and desire were clearly conveyed to Gu Mingming through this kiss. Gu Mingming allowed him to entangle her tongue and only responded gently. She calmed his emotions slowly, softly and gently. The kiss lasted for a long time until Elvis finally calmed down. This kiss was only left with deep love. Gu Mingming then slowly let go of Elvis. Panting heavily like a fish on shore, her face flushed from lack of oxygen was filled with tenderness. She chuckled. Are you still afraid now? Elvis hesitated for a moment but still nodded. I'm afraid. Gu Mingming had no choice but to reach out a hand to Leah. Without hesitation, Leah held her little hand tightly in his palm. Gu Mingming's other hand was holding Elvis's. Both of them protected her in their palms, feeling that soft touch. They didn't dare to use too much force, afraid of hurting her, but they also didn't dare to let go, afraid that she would disappear, Gu Mingming took the initiative to hold their hands. Not only can you not leave me, I can't leave you too. I won't leave, I won't. Elvis and Leah nodded with much difficulty. Leah said, I always believe Mingming's words. No matter how uneasy he was, no matter how scared he was, as long as she said it, he would believe her. Elvis nodded and replied, Xiaoming, you can lie to me about anything but this. You must never go back on your word, understand? Gu Mingming nodded. Why don't I make an oath to the beast deity? No. Elvis and Leah replied in unison, you are not allowed to swear recklessly. Gu Mingming chuckled. Alright, I won't swear. But you have to believe me before I can continue. Elvis hesitated for a moment, then looked up at Gu Mingming and said firmly, Xiaoming, I want you to promise me. If one day you decide to leave, take me with you or kill me. And me, Leah said softly. Gu Mingming nodded helplessly. Alright, if I want to leave, I will definitely bring the two of you along. They were never afraid of death but losing her. With this promise, the two of them gradually calmed down. The worst outcome would be death, but before that, they would not lose her. Chapter 11:12. This could also be considered as good news. At least it eliminated the possibility of someone plotting against Gu Mingming to force her into that door. Gu Mingming continued, Among the 7 treasures I have the tear of the beast deity, Qixin has the soul of the forest and the kiss of the ocean. I don't know where the love of the sky, the heart of the desert and the spirit of the rocky cliffs are, but what I am really worried about is the key of the Beast King. Leah frowned and said, You mean a child with the bloodline of the Beast King? Gu Mingming nodded and said, Wang Xiaoxin wanted to use snake as the key of the Beast King that year, so she found whales to mate with. Although the doors of time and space were not opened in the end, but Leah knew that there were some things that Gu Mingming could not say out loud, so he helped her to say, but the usage and activation methods of these 7 treasures have been passed down to the messenger's tribe, Sauter. The best proof is that Cole knew how to use the kiss of the ocean and the soul of the forest to save Qixin. So, you are worried that Cole will target your next child with the bloodline of the Beast King. You are afraid that what happened to Qixin will happen again, right? Gu Mingming nodded, indicating that what Leah said was exactly what she was worried about. One Qixin had already exhausted her. If Cole did the same thing and abducted another child from her, she would really break down. She was really afraid that when she was about to stab Cole's chest with her sharp blade, the one standing in front of her would not be an enemy, but her child. The simplest way is for you to not have any more children. In the end, the topic returned to this. Lee's emotions were very strange. From the start, he had been trying his best to suppress his desire to have a nest of children with the same bloodline as her. Then he completely destroyed this hope and then rekindled it. But now, he actually started to hate those children who had yet to appear. As long as they never appeared in this world, did that mean that he would not have to bear the risk of losing Gu Mingming? Anyway, Qixin had already been snatched back, so they did not need to pay Cole any ransom, right? Gu Mingming sighed and said, Leah? Lee's lips were pressed into a straight line. He did not say anything else and just avoided Gu Mingming's gaze. He did not want to anger Gu Mingming at this moment, not even the slightest bit. Gu Mingming tightened her grip on Lee's hand. Originally, after snatching Qixin back, I had planned to give up on searching for the 7 treasures. But now, I have a new idea. Elvis and Leah frowned, their palms sweaty and their lips tightly pursed. Gu Mingming knew what they were worried about, but the more she did not explain herself, the more uneasy they would be. She might as well state her thoughts clearly, she believed that they would understand. Chapter 11:13. Gu Mingming paused for a while before continuing, There is only one set of the 7 treasures in this world. As long as both of you use one each, then no one will be able to gather all of them to open the doors of time and space. Gu Mingming's words made sense. The tear of the beast deity was in Gu Mingming's body. If Elvis and Leah used the heart of the desert and the spirit of the rocky cliffs to activate the Beast King bloodline, then anyone who wanted to open the doors of time and space could only choose to kill the 3 of them to obtain the 7 treasures. One Beast King could already look down on the entire beast world. When 3 Beast Kings gathered together, it would basically be the game mode of a pay-to-win warrior. They could ask arrogantly, who else? The iron triangle formed by Gu Mingming, Elvis and Leah was the most indestructible and stable relationship in the beast world. It was impossible to destroy them one by one. No matter which one of them was attacked, the other 2 would definitely come to their rescue immediately. So, it was simply a fool's dream to think of obtaining the 7 treasures from them. Once Gu Mingming voiced out her idea, Elvis and Leah immediately exchanged glances and their eyes lit up. That's right, Their rationality had been blown away by the news of Gu Mengmeng will leave. They could not think of anything and fell into a huge whirlpool. But in a crisis, danger and opportunity coexisted. As long as they could snatch the remaining 3 treasures before Cole finished setting them up, they would have the upper hand and gained an absolute advantage. Even if they could only grab 2, it could be said to be an absolute advantage. Elvis circled his arms around Gu Mingming's waist and hugged her lightly. He kissed her forehead. Ever since I met you, I've started to be overcautious. I've even forgotten that taking the initiative is my style. Li's thoughts were more meticulous and persistent. He brought Gu Mingming's little hand to his lips and kissed it. Leave this to me. Gu Mingming nodded and replied, yeah. For the past 2 years, Leah and Elvis had been keeping a low profile and only focused on Gu Mingming. They just wanted to live their simple lives in peace and had long forgotten their grand ambition of uniting the beast world for so many years. However, even if they did not cause trouble, trouble would never let them go. Blindly avoiding them didn't seem to be able to keep the peace. Since that was the case, why not make a big fuss? If their family of 3 became beast kings, they would like to see who would dare to play tricks in front of them. This night, Leah and Elvis could not sleep for the first time in a long time. Not worry but excitement. The 7 treasures, which he had always rejected, suddenly became something that he had to obtain. They wanted to make Gu Mingming stay and ensure that no one in this world would dare to be presumptuous in front of her. Obtaining the 7 treasures seemed to be a way to settle things once and for all. The next day, after Gu Mingming woke up, Elvis and Leah decided to go out at the same time. Elvis continued to stock up on food for the winter while Leah made arrangements to search for the 7 treasures. At that moment, Gu Mingming was not used to being alone like this. In the past, one of them would always be by her side. The pot was filled with the meat that Leah had cooked and Gu Mingming scooped a bowl for herself. Gu Mingming was the only one at the 6-seater table. I used to eat alone, so I didn't think there was any problem. Only now did he understand that solitude was also a luxury because first he had to experience being accompanied and cared for. Chapter 11-14. Mandy? Gu Mingming was rather surprised because the 16 valued females had a kind of adoration towards her that was similar to fans towards their idols. They liked her very much but did not dare to get close to her. Unless Gu Mingming took the initiative, they would always approach her, as if they were afraid of causing trouble for her. Mandy placed her hands behind her back and appeared rather uneasy. She took small steps towards Gu Mingming and said, "When the great witch doctor went to look for Ian in the morning, he said that I can come and play with you." Play with a child? Gu Mingming chuckled and looked at Mandy like a child who had received candy, as if playing with her was a reward. Actually, her fox was just afraid that she would be bored at home alone, so he sent Mandy over to accompany her, right? Gu Mingming took a bowl and handed it to Mandy, asking, "Have you eaten breakfast?" Mandy shook her head, blushing slightly. "I was preparing to eat when the great witch doctor went over, but he said that he had prepared a lot of food for you in the morning and that I can come and eat with you. So, although our Ralph learned some cooking methods from Great Leah, the taste is not that great. So." Mandy instinctively swallowed her saliva. She looked at the big pot of fragrant stewed meat on the table in front of Gu Mingming, her eyes filled with desire. Gu Mingming waved her hand and said, "It's good that you haven't eaten yet, come and eat with me." Mandy agreed readily and happily sat down diagonally opposite Gu Mingming. Gu Mingming chuckled. The smell left behind by Elvis and Leah on the stone bench was a declaration that this was the master's seat and she could not sit there. And the seat diagonally opposite Gu Mingming was the one that Wabiai had sat on before. The smell was also very domineering and Gu Mingming was probably the only one in the beast world who had the guts to sit there. And the seat diagonally opposite was more fluid. Oriton, Barit, Ian, Fei Rue and the other guests had all sat there before, so Mandy automatically sat there. Gu Mingming did not say anything and just scooped a big ladle of meat into Mandy's bowl. "Li's cooking is especially good. More." Mandy smiled sweetly. She took the bowl from Gu Mingming and took a bite before letting out a satisfied sigh. Gu Mingming could clearly see the word happiness on her face. As Mandy ate, she said to Gu Mingming, "Great messenger, I heard the witch doctor ask Ian something about the love of the sky when I left. Ian didn't seem to want to talk about it." Gu Mingming paused and looked up at Mandy. "You have already mated with Ian?" Mandy smiled shyly and nodded. "Yes, we did it the day before yesterday." As she spoke, Mandy turned around. Between her 2 shoulder blades was a soaring eagle owl. It looked as if it was passing through a mountain stream, its gaze sharp and unstoppable. This was probably his most confident appearance. Gu Mingming chuckled. Congratulations. Mandy smiled sweetly and said, I still have to thank the great messenger for this matter. If you hadn't agreed, Ian would definitely have rejected me. On the day of mating, Ian told me that he had actually liked me long ago. However, as the previous master of the Eagle Owl tribe, he had responsibilities and obligations that he could not shirk from. Hence, he could only suppress his feelings and said that he had wronged me. He even apologized to me. Chapter 11:15. Mandy immediately became nervous. She pursed her lips and asked timidly, Great Messenger, are you angry at him? Gu Mingming smiled and shook her head. I usually rebuke him on the spot. I won't settle scores with him later. Mandy heaved a sigh of relief. That's good, that's good. I was still worried. Ian was different from the other males in the beast world. He was probably the only one who would rebuke Gu Mingming other than Wabiai. He was not afraid of her strength and identity like most males, nor was he blindly subservient like those males who had special thoughts about her. His loyalty could be compared to Barit's, but he would not treat her in a state of absolute obedience like Barit. Ian was the type who would help you even if he rebuked you. He was the type who would do anything for you while scolding you. Gu Mingming had thought that Ian would not say any sweet nothings with his sarcastic mouth. She did not expect him to apologize. Looking at Mandy's bashful expression, she must have been flirted with quite a bit. Sk you bird. You still have two faces. However, Gu Mingming did not expose Ian. After all, Mandy's family was different from hers and Sandy's. Mandy's family already had 27 partners. Under such intense competition as a bad friend, good friend, Gu Mingming naturally could not be a burden to Ian. Did you just say that Leah went to find Ian to ask about the love of the sky? Gu Mingming changed the topic. Mandy nodded. Yes, but Ian seemed to be avoiding it and did not want to talk about it. Yeah, it was naturally the right thing to ask someone who could fly about the sky. Ian's attitude was that he did not want to talk about it, not that he did not know. That meant that Leah did not find the wrong person. With Ian's brain, how long could he last under Lee's hands? Yeah, it had been a long time since she saw the black-bellied Leah online. Gu Mingming suddenly pitted Ian. Is the love of the sky what the great messenger is looking for? Mandy tilted her head and asked. Gu Mingming nodded as an answer. Mandy smiled and said, Then I'll go back and help the Lord Messenger persuade Ian to tell the witch doctor everything he knows. Gu Mingming put down her chopsticks and looked at Mandy. Mandy, why don't you just call me by my name like Sandy? Great Messenger, it sounds so awkward. Can I? Mandy's eyes lit up. She felt like a little fan who had suddenly gotten her idol's private WeChat ID. Gu Mingming nodded. Yeah, of course. Oh, Mingming? Mandy's eyes sparkled as her lips curled up uncontrollably. She called out Gu Mingming's name softly. Yeah. Gu Mingming responded, nodding and smiling. Mandy held her face in her hands and screamed. Just like a fan. Gu Mingming was actually quite surprised. After all, Mandy had joined St. Nazaire for more than a year. Although she rarely stayed in St. Nazaire, it was not to the extent that she would be so excited just by calling her name. After Mandy calmed herself down, she also felt that she had been very rude. She put down her bowl with a red face and said, Messenger? Gu Mingming, I'll go back first. You're not eating? Gu Mingming looked at the remaining half bowl of meat in Mandy's bowl and asked in confusion. Chapter 11:16. Mandy ran off in a flash and Gu Mingming could not stop her in time. Shaking her head in exasperation, Gu Mingming let her be. After Mandy's antics, Gu Mingming's unfamiliarity with being alone faded away. After clearing the bowls and chopsticks, Gu Mingming returned to the cave to retrieve 2 pieces of snake skin. Wabiai had brought them for her so that she could change into 2 sets of clothes. But the snake skin on her body belonged to Snake and she did not want to take it off, so these 2 pieces of snake skin had been left unused. Now they could be put to use. The wooden pail that Fei Rui had helped Gu Mingming wash was already completely dry. Gu Mingming tied the snake skin loosely to the wooden pail to act as a strainer, then opened the seal of the stone basin. She used a large stone bowl to pour the fermented grape juice onto the snake skin, filtering the juice before placing the pulp at one side. Gu Mingming slowly poured the juice into the 9 large basins. By the time she poured the 3rd basin, Elvis and Leah had already returned. The moment they entered the cave, the 2 of them were taken aback. Elvis went forward to carry Gu Mingming while Leah took the large stone bowl from her. Why didn't you wait for us to come back and let us do it? Leah asked as he copied Gu Mingming's actions of pouring the grape juice onto the snake skin and filtering it into the wooden pail. Elvis grabbed Gu Mingming's little hand and placed it into his mouth, licking the sticky juice off her fingers. Gu Mingming giggled from the itch. Anyway, it's boring to stay home alone, so I did something to pass the time. So, I will go wash my hands. But Elvis did not let go. He tightened his grip on Gu Mingming's waist. I can lick it cleaner than you can wash it. Gu Mingming looked at Elvis speechlessly. Stop fooling around. Elvis gently bit Gu Mingming's fingertip. I haven't seen you for an entire morning. Be good and let me get closer to you. Dirty. Gu Mingming blushed. But Elvis laughed. He kissed Gu Mingming's little face. My xiaoming is so delicious, how can it be dirty? With that, he sent Gu Mingming's little hand, which was stained with grape juice, into his mouth. He sucked and sucked, his deep gaze fixated on Gu Mingming's face, making her blush. However, Elvis seemed to be infatuated with the feeling of teasing her so much that she felt shy and at a loss for what to do. The more he sucked, the more exaggerated it became. In the end, it felt like an action movie. Gu Mingming quickly retracted her hand, her face so red that it looked like blood was about to drip out. Not daring to look at Elvis again, she could only change the topic to Leah. Mandy came to have breakfast with me this morning and said that you went to look for Ian to ask about the love of the sky? Leah nodded. Yeah, I just wanted to give it a try. My luck is not bad, he must know. But he doesn't want to say? Leah nodded and replied, Then, seeing that the wooden barrel was already filled to the brim, he removed the snake slough and used the sealed lid that Gu Mingming had prepared beforehand to cover the wooden barrel. He moved it to the other 2 wooden barrels that were already filled and said, Have lunch first, I will do the rest after I finish cooking. Actually, I can do it. Leah pressed Gu Mingming's hand to his lips and kissed it. Your males are still alive. How can I bear to let you use this pair of beautiful hands to work? Don't make my heart ache. Be obedient, Gu Mingming was helpless. She mumbled softly, I will be groomed into a useless piece of trash by you guys sooner or later. Aside from the topic. Alright, today's update has ended, see you tomorrow. Remember to leave a message with 5 stars. Then remember to hand over the tickets if you have them. Chapter 11-17. Hearing Gu Mingming's complaints, Leah smiled instead. He pinched Gu Mingming's little nose. It would be best if we can pamper you so much that you can't even breathe when you leave us. That way, I won't have to worry about you suddenly disappearing. TSK. Gu Mingming wrinkled her nose. She didn't insist on filtering the grape juice herself. Leah transformed his hands into claws and then back into hands. His hands were so clean that they were not stained by dirt. When the sunlight shone on them, it was as if his skin had been tanned until it became transparent, giving off a pinkish glow. Gu Mingming didn't have a hand fetish, but she really liked Leah and Elvis's hands. Both of their hands looked especially nice. If their fingers were intertwined, that would be an extremely beautiful scene. Thinking about that, Gu Mingming sniffed instinctively. She mustn't have a nosebleed again. Otherwise, she didn't know how the 2 of them would deal with her. Not long after lunch, Mandy dragged Ian to Gu Mingming's cave. Gu Mingming looked at the solemn Ian and Mandy, who kept urging them, and roughly understood what was going on. Ian looked at Gu Mingming for a long time. Must you find the love of the sky? Gu Mingming thought for a moment before nodding. Ian looked at Mandy again. In the end, he couldn't resist her nagging. Then find a male from the bird tribe to be your partner. Ah. Gu Mingming was shocked. Luckily, Ian had already mated with Mandy. Otherwise, Leah and Elvis would probably be strangling him by now. Ian pulled Mandy to sit at the long table at the entrance of Gu Mingming's cave. He stood behind her and placed his hands on her shoulders. His face was filled with helplessness. I heard that the love of the sky is on the highest peak of the Moda Mountains. That place is so tall that it pierces the clouds and is abnormally steep. Ordinary orcs can't even reach that height. Even birds may not be able to fly up to that height. The eagle-owl tribe used to be one of the birds guarding the mountain. But because the climate was too harsh and it was difficult for them to reproduce, the number of females in the tribe decreased until none were left. Ian remained silent for a long time before continuing. The eagle-owl tribe is a tribe that guards the lower altitudes of the Moda Mountains. As the guardians, we have never flown to the peak of the mountains. Even if he tried his best, he could only fly halfway up the mountain. So, if you want to go to Moda Mountains to retrieve the love of the sky, you must first find a vulture as a partner. Apart from them, there was no other race in this world that could fly so high. However, the vulture race prided themselves on being the people closest to the sky. They were even more arrogant than normal birds and would definitely not come down from the Moda Mountains to approach the land beasts. So, it's basically impossible for you to find a vulture as a partner. This was a vicious cycle. If you wanted to go up the Moda Mountains, you would need a vulture to fly you up. But vultures could only be found on the Moda Mountains. Since the Eagle Owl tribe used to guard the mountain, they should be very familiar with them, right? Can't you accompany me and pass the message? Gu Mingming asked. Ian's face darkened and the emotions in his eyes were hard to decipher. His brows were tightly furrowed as if he was holding back something. After a long time he finally spoke. In order not to be exterminated, I brought my tribesmen to seek refuge in Saint Nazir. This is equivalent to betraying all the guardians of the Moda Mountains. They will not leave the Moda Mountains to chase after us. But if we go any closer to the Moda Mountains, all the birds on the mountain will attack together and tear the people from the Eagle Owl tribe into pieces. Digression. Do you remember my babies? We have an explosive update on the 24th. At midnight that day, there will be at least 100,000 words of updates. Chapter 11:18. That's why you are not willing to tell Leah about this? Are you afraid that I will force you to go with me? Gu Mingming asked. Ian shook his head and said, When I sought refuge in Saint Nazir, I said that as long as you take in my tribesmen and help us survive that winter, my life will be yours to command. If you must go find the love of the sky, I will bring you there even if I will be torn to shreds. But Ian tried his best to curl the corners of his lips into a bitter smile and said, Because of my decision, the Eagle Owl tribe has become the shame of the Moda Mountains. I don't have the face to go back and face my former friends. I clearly remember that you came to seek refuge in Saint Nazir when you were at your wits' end. You just wanted your tribesmen to live on and did not do anything heartless. Why are you so ashamed to face others? Gu Mingming was indignant. She could insult her friends however she wanted, but why should others despise her? Ian lowered his head and said, The Eagle Owl tribe is not the first and will not be the last. But only the Eagle Owl tribe left the Moda Mountains and gave up their duty to protect it. To the Moda Mountains the Eagle Owl tribe is a traitor, a deserter and a betrayer. Gu Mingming tilted her head and said, do you know me? Ian looked up and looked at Gu Mingming as if she was an idiot. It was rare that Gu Mingming did not rebuke him. She pointed at her own nose and said, Doesn't the bird tribe view serving the beast deity as the highest honor? Since that's the case, isn't serving me, the messenger of the beast deity, closer to the beast deity and more loyal to him than flying foolishly in the sky? Ian looked at Gu Mingming and suddenly had a feeling of speechlessness. All roads lead to Rome. Being loyal to the beast deity is not the only way to defend a mountain range. Gu Mingming patted Ian's shoulder and said, To let the beast deity see your loyalty, the first requirement is for you to stay alive. If you die in the Moda Mountains, the beast deity will not be able to see it no matter how horrible your death is. You will be very busy. Unknowingly, Gu Mingming's words were like a seed that sprouted in Ian's heart. Then it gradually grew into a towering tree, absorbing all the haze that had been weighing on his heart for over a year. He had sought refuge in the Saint Nazir tribe where the messenger of the beast deity was. He was merely using a more direct method to continue offering his loyalty to the beast deity. Perhaps he hadn't pushed the Eagle Owl tribe to the point of no return, right? Ian curled his lips and looked up at Gu Mingming again. He felt that she was exceptionally pleasing to the eye today, but he could not help but praise her. I didn't expect to hear something human from you one day. TSK heartless. Gu Mingming rolled her eyes at Ian, but she was not really angry. She just held her chin and looked at Ian asking, Is Moda Mountains far? How long does it take from Saint Nazir? Ian said, It took us 9 days to get here. If we travel on foot it will take at least half a month. Gu Mingming's fingers tapped lightly on the edge of the table. Half a month. Just the journey back and forth would take a month. Almost half of the rainy season had passed. If they left now they would definitely not be able to return before winter. Chapter 11:19. All right. It was a simple word, but it carried the weight of a promise. Ian did not know what position Gu Mingming held in his heart. Was she the messenger of the beast deity respected by the Eagle Owl tribe and even the entire beast deity, or was she a friend whom he could sacrifice for? He only knew that Gu Mingming was a very special existence. No matter what happened during normal times, as long as she said the word, he would risk his life to accompany her without a second word. With the matter settled, Ian did not stay any longer. He held Mandy's shoulders and said, Let's go back first, don't disturb others' meals. Mandy looked at the meat in Gu Mingming's pot with envy. She had wanted to eat more in the morning, but in order to help Gu Mingming persuade Ian, she only ate a small bowl before leaving. Now, that pot of meat might not even be enough for Leo or Elvis, so she was too embarrassed to stay for a free meal. She stood up and followed Ian out. After 2 steps, she stopped and turned back to look at Gu Mingming. She called out softly, "Gu Mingming." "Mm?" Gu Mingming looked up at Mandy, using a single room to ask her what was the matter. But Mandy smiled brightly and waved. "I'm leaving, goodbye." "Oh." Gu Mingming was at a loss. Then she heard Mandy say to Ian in a soft but excited voice, "Did you see that? I called the great messenger's name and she answered me." A crow flew past Gu Mingming's head, leaving behind 6 large dots. After Ian and Mandy left, Leah took over the bowl and chopsticks from Gu Mingming's hands. He put down the chopsticks and changed to a small spoon to feed Gu Mingming personally. Elvis lifted her by the waist and Gu Mingming fell into his arms. The stance, there was a demonic aura. Leah looked at Gu Mingming with a grin. "Mingming, do you think our family will have a new member soon?" Gu Mingming instinctively rubbed her tummy. "Not so soon. If I don't get the love of the sky, will the 2 of you make me pregnant?" Elvis held Gu Mingming's hand that was on his tummy. "Don't act dumb. Children are never considered family members." "Why?" Gu Mingming slammed the table and exploded. Why couldn't her child be considered a member of her family? Was there still justice in this world? Elvis chuckled, rubbing her little head and comforting her, "Because when they grow up, they will mate with other females and form a family. They cannot stay in our family forever, so children cannot be considered as family members." Gu Mingming thought about it. Yeah, she treasured her son, but she was not so perverted as to not allow her son to get married and tie him to her side to be a bachelor for the rest of his life. Sai, the pig that he raised, would eventually have to steal someone else's cabbages. He had to accept this as soon as possible. Gu Mingming nodded and said with a little melancholy, "Oh, so our family only consists of you, me and Leah." Facing Gu Mingming's disappointment, Leah raised his eyebrows. His expression did not change as he continued to smile amicably. "Yeah, there are only 3 of us. It's a little too small, right?" Gu Mingming nodded instinctively. She had originally thought that her family was rather strong. With her, Elvis, Leah, Hudda and his brothers, there would be even more little foxes and wolves in the future. However, it turned out that her son could not even be considered a member of her family. How depressing. Chapter 11:20. Her hair stood on end. For the first time, Gu Mingming felt that Li's smile was too scary. She shook her head. "No, I don't want to take in a vulture as a partner." Leah chuckled. "That's right. The vultures live in the harsh Mota Mountains all year round. Their bodies are naturally stronger than ours. Moreover, they can fly. Apart from your beast pressure, no one can push them down from the sky at that height. So even if we challenge them to become partners, Elvis and I may not be their match. Moreover, if you fancy one, Elvis and I can become partners without the challenge." Gu Mingming cupped Li's face and stopped him from speaking more and more exaggeratedly. "I don't want to become partners with a vulture. You are thinking too much." Li's mouth was pinched into a fish's mouth by Gu Mingming. His bewitching eyes matched with his adorable lips gave off a conflicting sense of cuteness. Gu Mingming smacked her lips and kissed him. "Don't think too much. You and Elvis are enough for me. Our family doesn't need other males." Li's temper melted from the kiss. His tone unknowingly softened. "The vultures rarely go down the mountains, but that doesn't mean they have never gone down before. In the past 1,000 years, they once went down to Sauter to meet the leader at that time. No one knows what they talked about then. But the vulture's looks were described vividly." Leah gently pressed down Gu Mingming's little hand that was pinching his face and said, "His long brown hair is like the flowing water of an ancient lake. His slender and muscular physique is a perfect work of art forged by the harsh climate of the Mota Mountains. It is forged by the cold winds above the clouds and has its own lofty and unyielding character. They walk calmly in the Sauter tribe. That is because they have no fear because of their power. Just a glance from their sharp eyes would make others shudder in fear. They would automatically retreat and try to find a place to hide themselves." With that, Leah sighed. "The Snow Fox tribe is such a proud tribe. How good-looking must they be to be able to pass down such a legend for hundreds of years? Ming, I suddenly have no confidence in my own appearance. What if you really fancy a male vulture?" Gu Mingming shook her head and sighed. "Didn't you confidently tell me that there is no one better looking than you in this world and that I should just look at you? Why are you saying this now?" Leah glanced sideways and said worriedly, "Back then, I felt that the vultures never set foot on land and you would never see them, so I was naturally the best looking." "Who knew?" sighed. Gu Mingming leaned forward and kissed Li's face, saying, "No matter how they look like, in my heart, you and Elvis are nothing. You said it yourself." Leah peeked at Gu Mingming from the corner of his eye and said proudly, Yes, I will." Gu Mingming smiled helplessly before snuggling back into Elvis's arms. Hubby say, since the vultures are so powerful, why don't we bring them all back to Saint Nazir after we get the kiss of the sky? Just like the Eagle Owl tribe, they can be incorporated into our air force. No. Elvis's rejection was resolute, without a trace of hesitation. Chapter 11:21. I haven't forgotten how you drooled and acted like a hooligan when you first saw my human form. Elvis pinched Gu Mingming's little face. What did you say then? Touch and kiss me even at the risk of drowning, mm? Gu Mingming laughed dryly. Don't mention the past. Let it go with the wind. But Elvis did not buy it. He continued to smile coldly and continued, you've said it yourself, you're a veteran member of the Appearance Association and your motto is appearance is justice. You're handsome, so whatever you say is right. Gu Mingming was speechless. How could she reveal all her secrets? Tsk. She felt good just because of her cheap mouth, but she regretted it the moment she said it. So, do you think I will allow a tribe whose looks gave Leah such a sense of danger to join Saint Nazir and create a destructive crisis for myself? Gu Mingming shook her head. No. Elvis chuckled. He tapped Gu Mingming's little nose in approval. So smart. Gu Mingming didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Hubby, I have to clarify something. I treated you that way because I was single at that time. Flirting with a handsome guy while single is not called acting like a hooligan. It's called creating an opportunity for love. Yeah, Leah and I have already grasped the opportunity you gave us. So we don't want to give it to anyone else. Elvis said softly. Gu Mingming was exasperated. I already have a partner. I won't give anyone else such an opportunity. Elvis stared into Gu Mingming's eyes. After a long while he smiled. I know what you said is true. I don't need the vulture tribe to verify it for me. I will block all temptations for you. You just have to continue liking Leah and me. Gu Mingming facepalmed. She felt that her image was hopeless. Leah and Elvis were sure that she was a female demon who lusted after men. Forget it. She wasn't wronged. After all, even if time could be turned back to the past, she would still act like a hooligan towards Elvis. Otherwise, wouldn't such a good husband be someone else's now? How could that work? Gu Mingming realized that Elvis was usually a man of few words, but when faced with such a situation, both his EQ and EQ would immediately come online to block her. But forget it, she did not have any other thoughts anyway. Whatever he said, it would only make things worse if they continued discussing. In the end, Elvis was certain that she was looking for a male vulture as a partner. But the heavens had pity on her. She had not even seen a single strand of hair from the vulture tribe, and she had already been made into a scandal. She felt even more wronged than doughy. Leah tapped the area between Gu Mingming's brows. That smile clearly indicated that he and Elvis had the same thoughts and rejected Gu Mingming's suggestion. Gu Mingming wrinkled her nose and made a funny face at Leah, not saying a word. Leah said, the problem now is how to reach the highest peak of the Moda Mountains. From what Ian said, not all birds can go up there, let alone land beasts. Actually, there was a very simple solution. That was to let Gu Mingming sleep and ask the beast deity. But no one would bring up this suggestion now. Because Elvis and Leah were extremely afraid that Gu Mingming would directly transmigrate back to that dream realm. Chapter 11:22. Since they could not ask the beast deity, the problem of how to ascend the mountain became a dilemma. But luckily they still had a whole winter to slowly think about it, so they were not in a hurry to come up with an answer. The rainy season in Saint Nazir was extremely busy. Males and families hunted and preserved meat in a frenzy, while those that did not mate would follow Barit and Oriton out to search for the potatoes, sweet potatoes and lotus roots that Gu Mingming had taught everyone before. The rest of them tanned beast skins and divided them according to their grades, before distributing them equally to all the females in Saint Nazir. Gu Mingming had brought everyone to do it once during the winter 2 years ago. Although Gu Mingming was not around last year, there were many old tribesmen in Saint Nazir, so they did not delay the preparation of supplies while defending against the enemies. This year, everyone was more experienced. With Gu Mingming holding the fort at home, Elvis traversing through the territory, and Leah strategizing in the tribe, everything was more orderly. Ever since Gu Mingming made Mandy call her by her name, Mandy seemed to be hooked by her soul, running over to Gu Mingming's place every day. There was nothing special, just following behind Gu Mingming to watch others preserve meat or give pointers on how to prepare and store vegetables. Counting the days, first snow should be here soon. Gu Mingming was sitting at the entrance of the cave, looking up at the sky when she saw an eagle owl flying close to the ground. When it reached Gu Mingming, it transformed into a human and said, "Great messenger, Frankston's witch Dr. Joshua wishes to see you." "Joshua?" Gu Mingming thought for a while and asked, "What is he here for?" The eagle owl shook its head and said, "I don't know, he won't tell me even if I ask him. He only said that he wishes to see the great messenger and won't leave until he sees you." Gu Mingming originally wanted to say that the witch doctor could look for him if he had something to do, but thinking about how Leah was already having a hard time arranging the distribution of resources for the winter, and also having to worry about obtaining the love of the sky from Mota Mountains, as well as being on guard against Cole's interference, even the smartest person would be exhausted. She sighed and said, "Ask him to come in." "Yes." The eagle owl bowed, then transformed into a beast and flew against the wind. Not long later, Joshua appeared in front of Gu Mingming. To be honest, Gu Mingming was stunned by this first-level ape. Not because he looked outstanding but because he was wearing clothes. Yes, clothes. It was not the beast-skin skirt that Elvis and Leah usually wore, nor was it the strange clothes that Leah wore during the ritual. Instead, it was a simple long robe. Judging from the material, it was made of deerskin. Calling it a robe would be an exaggeration. It looked like two pieces of deerskin with the head, tail, and limbs removed and cut into a rectangle. One end was sewn with thread, leaving only a collar. After putting it on, a 4-finger-wide belt was made out of something that looked like tree bark. The shoulders of the clothes were slightly wider than his body, and when the waist was tightened, many of the shortcomings of his body were covered up. Joshua, who was originally weaker than high-level orcs like Elvis and Leah, now had a scholarly and refined aura. He did not look like a barbarian, but more like an ancient person. This was the first time Gu Mingming saw a male wearing clothes that were meant to cover his body after coming to the beast world. She could not help but feel a sense of familiarity. Chapter 11:23. Greetings, great messenger. Joshua bowed respectfully. Gu Mingming nodded as a form of greeting but did not go near Joshua. After all, she didn't forget that when she passed by Frankston on her way back from Zacharias, Frankston's leader, Hanston, and this witch doctor, Joshua, had offered to escort her. At that time, Hanston had said that he didn't dare to have any other thoughts, but this level 1 Joshua had stubbornly insisted that he wouldn't give up. What if her man got jealous? Now that Elvis and Leah were not at home, Gu Mingming did not want to cause any unnecessary trouble. After all, first it was Fei Rui, then it was Victor, and then there was a male vulture. If she got involved with this Joshua, she would not be able to do anything for the entire winter. She would just be soaking in a vat of jealousy every day. So, Gu Mingming maintained a certain distance from Joshua. She asked with a neutral expression, "Is there anything you need from me?" Joshua nodded. "Winter is coming soon. I wish to request to stay in the Great Messenger's cave." If it was in the past, Gu Mingming might have asked why he wanted to stay in her cave. But Barit had already caused trouble once before, so Gu Mingming naturally understood that Joshua wanted to stay in the cave to store food for her. Holding her forehead, Gu Mingming shook her head. "Elvis only stored enough food for our family to survive the winter. He did not prepare any for you." In other words, she did not lack food and did not want you. Joshua did not seem surprised by this answer. After all, they were a neighboring tribe. It was no secret that Saint Nazir had a way to store food. Joshua nodded. Then he tilted his head and smiled. "Then does the great messenger lack beast pets? The kind that is the closest to your way of thinking and behavior?" Gu Mingming chuckled. She shook her head. "Joshua, I have no intention of recruiting new males into my family. So don't waste any more time on me. Go find a new target." "I can wait." Joshua did not seem to take Gu Mingming's rejection to heart. He just lowered his head. The males in the beast world are all stubborn. They either don't love or fall in love for the rest of their lives. Gu Mingming was very clear about this. However, she no longer wanted to carry someone else's burden for the rest of her life. It was too heavy. Gently caressing the back of her neck, Gu Mingming smiled. "My stance is very clear. I don't like you. If there's nothing else, please leave." Joshua shook his head. "I want to join Saint Nazir as a witch doctor." Unmated males had the right to decide which tribe they wanted to live in. Witch doctors were a precious resource that was second only to females. Almost all tribes fought over them and there was absolutely no reason to reject them. However, if they accepted him, wouldn't it mean that they had tacitly agreed to his waiting? Chapter 11:24. Oh, by the way, other than me there are 17 females in our tribe. Other than Maya, who is a half-orc, the rest are all complete females. As Gu Mingming said, she held Mandy's arm and smiled. "Here she is, Mandy, a female leopard. I personally crowned her the first beauty of the beast world a year ago. If you want a mate, why don't you consider wooing Mandy?" After saying that, Gu Mingming felt her face hurt. She sounded like a pimp. Mandy glared at Gu Mingming shyly. "I promised Ian that I will only accept him this year. If you want to woo me, you have to wait until next year." Joshua smiled at Mandy and said, "Nice to meet you, Mandy." That was considered as a greeting. Then Joshua's gaze returned to Gu Mingming. "I can accept the test to join the tribe. I am willing to accept it no matter what the test is. I must join Saint Nazir." "Join Saint Nazir as a witch doctor? Sure, you are most welcome." Leah hurried back the moment he heard that Joshua had come to meet Gu Mingming. But the moment he arrived, he heard this fellow confessing to Gu Mingming. He did not appear because he wanted to hear Gu Mingming reject him personally. But even after Gu Mingming made it so clear, he still pestered her. Leah patted Joshua's shoulder lightly and said, "The witch doctor's test shall be conducted in the witch doctor's way. I just patted 4 types of medicine on your shoulder. If you can find all 4 types of medicine by this time tomorrow, you will pass. I will welcome you on behalf of Saint Nazir. If you can't find them, then you can scram back to where you came from. Don't be an eyesore in front of me again." Joshua tilted his head and sniffed the scent on his shoulder. For smells, the number was correct. But these 4 smells were especially faint and hard to distinguish. But in order to join Saint Nazir, Joshua still decided to accept this challenge. Passing the test as a witch doctor meant that the test given by Leah was not too harsh. "Okay," Joshua answered and turned around to search for the medicine that he had sniffed out first. After Joshua left, Gu Mingming leaned on Lee's shoulder. "What did you pat on his shoulder? Are you sure he won't be able to find it?" Leah chuckled. "Don't worry, I will not allow flies to keep flying around you." Gu Mingming laughed and said, "Didn't you say you have a lot of things to settle? Why are you back so early?" Leah carried Gu Mingming in his arms and said, "Come back to kill flies." Gu Mingming replied, "It's just Joshua, I can handle him myself." Leah replied, "If you have to handle everything, why do you still need Elvis and me?" Gu Mingming was speechless. She could only wrap her arms around Lee's neck and lean into the hollow of his neck, allowing him to carry her back to the cave. Mandy followed him for 2 steps, but upon receiving Lee's warning gaze, she could only turn around and leave angrily. Only then did Leah heave a sigh of relief. His Mingming was too outstanding. What should he do if she could win over both genders? He had finally gotten rid of Sandy with much difficulty, and now there was Mandy. Could it be that those with Mandy in their names all had a special liking for his Mingming? TSK, as expected, she could not leave Gu Mingming's side with Elvis, or else it would be hard to guard against her. Chapter 11:25. Leah didn't tell Gu Mingming which 4 drugs he had applied on Joshua's body, and Gu Mingming didn't press him. Gu Mingming didn't have any special feelings for Joshua, so she didn't want to give him any hope. Turning a blind eye was the most heartless and appropriate method. There were many things to settle in the tribe, especially after confirming that they were going to the Mota Mountains during the monsoon season. Leah had even more things to settle. But everything he did was for Gu Mingming. If he neglected Gu Mingming because of those things, wouldn't he be putting the cart before the horse? In his eyes, nothing was more important than Gu Mingming. So since he was back, Leah didn't plan on going out again. He just sat at the entrance and started curing the meat like the other males. After all, if he didn't do it, Gu Mingming had to do it. Elvis, the great god of dark cooking, was forbidden from touching any food that wasn't edible. And he couldn't bear to part with Gu Mingming's hands rubbing the coarse salt crystals. Seeing that Leah was preparing the food, Gu Mingming automatically stood behind him and massaged his shoulders. "You must be exhausted after so many things happened recently?" Leah enjoyed Gu Mingming's service and smiled. "The most tiring thing is that I can't look at you every day. I have to resist the urge to leave everything behind and come back. It's so tiring. But winter is coming soon. By then, I will have nothing to do and just have to look at you every day." Gu Mingming wrapped her arms around Lee's shoulders from behind and rested her chin on his neck. "In the blink of an eye, this is the 3rd winter we have spent together." Leah shook his head. "The first?" Gu Mingming didn't understand. Leah said, "In the first year you mated with Elvis and I was an outsider. In the second year you circled around Qixin for the entire winter. Elvis and I were both outsiders. This year you have to focus on accompanying the 2 of us. After all, this is the first winter for the 3 of us as a family of 3. Gu Mingming chuckled. "All right, we will stay in the cave for the entire winter. I will accompany the 2 of you." Leah nodded and said, Elvis and I have already expanded the layout of the cave. Before winter, that stone table will be moved into the cave. The storage room has also been expanded to make it easier for you to throw potatoes at us. The floor is also covered with soft new soil, so you won't trip or hurt your feet when you chase after us. Gu Mingming was taken aback. Why would I throw potatoes at you? Leah glanced sideways with a tinge of disappointment in his eyes. You won't be screwed up this year? Gu Mingming blinked her eyes and looked at Leah in confusion. Leah sighed. I was very envious at that time. I thought I would finally have the chance to be smashed by you this year. That year? Gu Mingming thought for a long time before recalling that in the first year of mating with Elvis, Elvis had said that she had gained weight. She was so angry that she chased after Elvis and threw potatoes and sweet potatoes everywhere, causing him to dodge in all directions, but not a single thing fell to the ground, and he caught all the food she threw at him steadily. She hugged Leah and rubbed herself against him with all her might, smiling. Are you an idiot? Why would you be envious of being beaten up? Leah allowed Gu Mingming to mess around with him. He smiled indulgently. I have masochistic tendencies. I only do this to you. Aside from the topic, today's update has ended, babies. Susu is working very hard to save chapters. Really working very hard. So, are there any rewards? Something like a monthly ticket, or something like that? Act cute and roll on the ground for tickets. Chapter 11:26. Yeah, Gu Mingming remembered this. Leah had always been envious of all the little things she did to Elvis before they became partners, like twisting his ears, smashing potatoes, until now, this fellow would still shake his furry beast ears from time to time, looking at her with an expectant gaze, asking if she wanted to twist his ears. That year of broken roots and broken threads must have really tortured Leah badly, right? She reached out her little hand and rubbed Lee's ears. Then she chuckled. Domestic violence is not acceptable. In the past, I smashed Elvis because I was a weakling. Even if I used all my strength to hit him, I could not hurt him much. But now it's different. If I make a mistake, you or Elvis will be hurt. I'm a strong Gu Mingming now, I can't hit anyone as I please. Leah pulled Gu Mingming's little hand that was rubbing his ears and kissed it. Silly girl, in Elvis's and my world, you are never a weakling. If you want to hurt us, you don't need to use your fists. Just one look from you can push us into hell or pull us back to the human world. One word from you can kill me on the spot or bring me back to life. Gu Mingming pecked Lee's lips. Then she smiled sweetly. My hubby has such a sweet mouth. A numbness spread throughout Lee's entire body. She often called Elvis's hubby, but this was the first time she called him hubby. This form of address was set after Snake snatched the title of boyfriend. But she had never called him that before. The first time she heard it, her heart trembled. He hugged her tightly in his arms and kissed her again. Call me that again. Hubby. Gu Mingming nestled in Lee's arms obediently. Her face was pinkish, making one feel pity for her. Leah hugged Gu Mingming and asked her to call him hubby time and time again. Every time she called him that, he had to kiss her a few times to stop the itch in his heart. Just like that, they spent the entire afternoon until Oriton returned with Elvis in the evening carrying his hunted prey. Elvis took Gu Mingming from Lee's arms and hugged her. He took 2 deep breaths of the air that carried her scent, then looked at Leah and said, I heard that monkey came to confess to Xiaomeng? Leah nodded. Don't worry, I've already dealt with it. Yes. Elvis curled his lips in approval before continuing, including today's harvest, we should have more or less stocked up on our prey for winter. From tomorrow onwards, I'll stay at home to accompany Xiaomeng. You can go and do your work. Leah nodded and did not speak. They all knew that what Leah needed to do was not to manage the tribe, but to go to the Moda Mountains during the rainy season. Same old rules, you're in charge of thinking, I'll be in charge of using my hands. Elvis added. Leah chuckled and raised his brows. I feel like I'm at a disadvantage now. Because every time there's a mistake you'll push the blame to me saying he's the one who came up with the idea, I'm only responsible for beating him. TSK, why don't you be responsible for thinking and I'll do it? Elvis smiled. I am the first partner. My arrangements are the rules. Leah shook his head helplessly and muttered, cunning. Chapter 11:27. Gu Mingming shook her head. The storage room in the cave had already expanded by more than 3 times. In the first year, Gu Mingming knew that in order to ensure that she had sufficient food, Elvis and Leah ate very little as long as it could sustain their lives. Last year he was led by the nose by coal to solder for the winter and Elvis did not have time to prepare too much. Luckily, he had the help of the 3 little ones and the food was still sufficient. This year, Elvis was practically risking his life. He could not wait to slaughter all the prey he could see and bring them back. Now that the cave was filled to the brim, even if the family of 3 ate to their heart's content, they would not be able to finish so much food during the winter. What else did she want? Nothing, there was really nothing else. In the next few days, Leah left early in the morning and returned late at night, looking travel-worn. Gu Mingming's heart ached for him to travel back and forth. She said that she could cook for herself during this period of time and asked Leah not to prepare 3 meals for her daily. After all, Leah could settle his meals in the wild on the spot. With less cooking time he could rest for a while longer. But Leah did not agree. He just hugged her and said, "These 3 meals a day are my excuse to catch my breath. If I don't use this reason to come back to see you, I might not be able to persevere through this tiring day." Gu Mingming's heart was filled with sweetness, but she could not bear for him to suffer. So she said that she would prepare the 3 meals in the future and he could come back to eat with her. But Leah held onto her little hand and said, "Silly girl, your male is still alive, why should he let you suffer?" Her rebuttal was futile. Leah still came back on time to prepare 3 meals every day. After taking care of Gu Mingming's daily needs, he hurriedly went back to work. The weather was getting colder. Even without a calendar, one could feel that winter was about to arrive. Mingming. Leah took out a piece of beast skin and draped it over Gu Mingming's shoulders. Then he hugged her shoulders and kissed her forehead, saying, "It's going to be winter soon. Should we hold a bonfire party to liven things up?" Gu Mingming did not understand. Everyone was busy preparing food. Who would have the time to hold a bonfire party? Leah said, "Saint Nazir was not peaceful at this time last year. This year, with you back at the helm, no one would dare to cause trouble. However, the clansmen are more or less traumatized. When I saw Maya yesterday, she was still saying that she had a feeling that in the next second, an enemy would suddenly rush in to steal their food and kill their males." Maya? Gu Mingming thought for a while. She had almost forgotten about this female. Maya had always been on good terms with Nina. She had watched coldly as Nina bullied Sandy for many years. Later, when he came and Nina lost her power, Maya had distanced herself from Nina and started hanging out with them. He had originally thought that females were precious and did not want Saint Nazir to be in a state of chaos, so naturally, he did not have any feelings for her. They lived in the same tribe but they were not close. Mingming. Leah hooked Gu Mingming's chin, his long and narrow eyes meeting Gu Mingming's. A hint of a sly smile entered her eyes. His thin lips curved up as he said in a low voice, "I want you to tell Maya that you want a male vulture as a partner. During the rainy season, we will go to the Mota Mountains to hunt for treasures." Chapter 11:28. Leah looked at Gu Mingming and inched his face closer, saying, "Kiss me and I will tell you." Gu Mingming did not act pretentiously and kissed Leah's face, saying, "Yeah, tell me." Leah held up Gu Mingming's little face and kissed her left and right, before replying in satisfaction, using her mouth to pass a message to someone. Someone? Gu Mingming did not understand. Leah looked up at the sky with a cold smile on his lips. He caressed Gu Mingming's palm with his fingers and said in a seemingly nonchalant manner, "To see someone in pain, the easiest way is to give him hope and then ruthlessly extinguish it. In the past few years he never got tired of giving me a support when I was in the mud, then taking it away the moment I stood up, watching me fall back into the mud." With that, Gu Mingming immediately understood who someone was referring to. Frowning, Gu Mingming asked softly, "You mean Maya is Cole's woman?" Leah glanced sideways and chuckled at Gu Mingming's big clear eyes, saying, "I really love your ignorant look." Gu Mingming snorted in disdain, but Leah rubbed Gu Mingming's little head and said, "I am serious, this world is too ugly, you don't need to know or think about those filthy things, just leave it to Elvis and me to handle it. You just maintain this innocence and just watch as Elvis and I clean up the world for you." With that, Leah held the back of Gu Mingming's head and kissed her brow, saying, "Being so reliant and trusted by you makes me feel very accomplished." Gu Mingming did not say anything, but her eyes darkened. She turned to look at Elvis behind her and asked, "You also know that Maya is Cole's woman?" Elvis nodded and said, "Her appearance was too coincidental, Leah and I were just talking about creating a tribe, when a female held hostage by stray beasts appeared in front of us. A concept of, 'I will give you a pillow if you want to sleep'?" Gu Mingming recalled that during the first year of mating, Elvis had told her about their creation of a tribe in order to persuade her to accept Leah. Elvis had told her that Maya was the first female in Saint Nazir. She did not think much about it then, but now she finally understood. Was this Cole's bad taste again? You want to create a tribe? Alright, I'll give you a female, go ahead and create it. When you build your tribe and think that you have the strength to fight against me, I will personally destroy your tribe. I will watch the hope in your eyes extinguish in an instant, leaving only the thin smoke of despair. This was really like Cole's style. Why did you still save her when you knew? Gu Mingming frowned. But Leah looked at Gu Mingming as if he was looking at a child. He smiled gently, full of pampering and indulgence. I'm a fox. Leah waved his tail and said, Isn't the fox best at eating the meat in the trap and retreating unscathed, watching the hunter fly into a rage at the sight of the trap? Gu Mingming paused for a moment before smiling. A normal human's thought process would naturally be to avoid risks. If they knew that there was a trap, their first reaction would naturally be to avoid it. Snatching chestnuts from the fire, it wasn't her style, but she had to admit that Leah was right. Chapter 11:29. But, why did you tell her about us going to Moda Mountains? Gu Mingming frowned. She did not want to get involved with Cole. Leah pinched Gu Mingming's little nose and said, Do you think Cole knows that I know Maya is his woman? Gu Mingming was a little confused by Lee's words and only understood after thinking it through twice. Thinking about it, with Cole's suspicious and scheming nature, it was impossible for him not to know that Leah had seen through Maya's identity. She nodded and said, I think so too. Leah chuckled and agreed, I think so too. Gu Mingming thought about it and then narrowed her eyes and said, You clearly know Maya is Cole's woman, but you still purposely leaked the information to Maya so that Cole would not believe you, right? Leah tapped the tip of Gu Mingming's nose and chuckled, Smart. In this way you have been asking about Moda Mountains with great fanfare, but in Cole's eyes, it is just a pretense. Gu Mingming chuckled, as if she could already see Cole's comical expression when he found out that he had been tricked by Leah. Yeah, the sight of the hunter standing at the side of the trap looking at the eaten bait and the empty trap was witnessed by the fox not far away. Such a beautiful scene, how could one not be looking forward to it? Leah rubbed his cheeks and said, And the spirit of the rocky cliffs that I unintentionally mentioned, will become the real target in that person's eyes. Gu Mingming nodded and smiled, Alright, I got it. Let's hold a bonfire party tonight, Mandy and Maya will sit beside me. Leah pulled Gu Mingming's little hand and kissed it, saying, Yeah, I look forward to your performance. That night, 18 bonfires were set up on the empty ground in St. Nazaire. Gu Mingming's bonfire was the largest, while Maya and Mandy sat on her left and right. Mandy was the first beauty that Gu Mingming had personally named herself. Because of her relationship with Ian, it was natural for her to sit beside Gu Mingming. But Maya was a half-orc female and did not have a deep relationship with Gu Mingming like Sandy. She actually sat beside Gu Mingming, and this caused the other females in the tribe to be very displeased. Gu Mingming acted as if she could not see the enmity in the eyes of the other females in the tribe towards Maya. She just smiled and waved at Maya, calling her over to her fire. Maya was still timid, just like the time when she knelt at Gu Mingming's feet and begged to follow her. It was just that Gu Mingming had thought through some key points and would no longer treat Maya's behavior as a half-orc female's inferiority complex and cowardice. He had thought that Nina was the most annoying female in the beast world. He did not expect to meet Ellie. He had originally thought that Ellie was the classic example of a green tea bitch in the beast world. He did not expect that Maya was hiding beside him. Tiske, so Maya was the scheming bitch among the females, the white lotus among the scumbags. He was really blind to not have seen it before. Maya. Gu Mingming smiled and was extremely gentle. Before I came back this time, Sandy was still talking about you to me. The three of us are the original females of St. Nazaire and our relationship is better than others. When I return from the Moda Mountains I will bring you to Sauter. Sandy has 3 leopard cubs at home and they are so cute. Chapter 11:30. Gu Mingming chuckled. The fish had bitten the bait. If they were really good friends, shouldn't they be concerned about Sandy and the cubs after hearing Gu Mingming's words? Why didn't Gu Mingming see through such clumsy acting in the past? Perhaps it was not that she couldn't see through it, but she had never cared about Maya before? So now that she knew she was a spy, she did not feel any anger. Yeah, putting herself in Maya's shoes, Gu Mingming tried to think. If this spy was not Maya but Sandy, she would definitely be furious. With that thought, Gu Mingming's mood improved. She smiled more sincerely and said, Yeah, I plan to go to the Moda Mountains during the rainy season to find the love of the sky. But the Moda Mountains are very high, beasts can't even go up. Maya looked at Gu Mingming innocently. She did not know how many secrets she had revealed. Gu Mingming and Leah had to spend a long time to pry information about the Moda Mountains out of Ian's mouth, and as a half-orc female with no achievements in Saint Nazir, she really knew too much. Gu Mingming had her own thoughts, but she did not show it on her face. She just continued, "Yeah, so I plan to take in a male vulture as my partner and let him fly me up." Vulture? What? Maya's face was full of longing, her eyes shining with envy. She said, "I heard that vultures are the most arrogant race in the beast world. Every one of them has outstanding looks and is powerful. Gu Mingming is probably the only one in the entire beast world who can tame such a male. What a clumsy bootlicking." Gu Mingming smiled despite her disgust. "Yeah, they are my father's most loyal subjects. They should have the honor of being my partners." Maya's smile froze. If it was in the past, Gu Mingming would not have paid attention to Maya and would definitely not have noticed this flash of jealousy. But now she could see it clearly. Maya quickly adjusted her expression and smiled in agreement. "Yeah, being able to be your partner is a gift from the beast deity. After all, you are not only the messenger of the beast deity, but also the daughter of the beast deity." Gu Mingming smiled without saying a word. She just raised her eyebrows and put on a proud look. Maya was also afraid that she would give herself away if she stayed by Gu Mingming's side for too long, so when she saw that Gu Mingming was ignoring her, she took the initiative to say goodbye and returned to her campfire. After Maya left, Gu Mingming called Mandy over. The two males who came with her were the first partner Ralph and the newly mated Ian. Ralph was very tactful and did not take the initiative to approach Gu Mingming. Instead, he went to Lee's side to learn how to cook. Ian was more familiar with Gu Mingming. Before mating, Elvis and Leah did not say anything when he loitered around Gu Mingming. Now that they had mated, Elvis and Leah were even less concerned about him. Hence, they allowed him to sit beside Gu Mingming with Mandy between them. Chapter 1131. Gu Mingming shook her head. "I can't guarantee that I will stay here during every rainy season, but I can guarantee that Saint Nazir will become stronger and stronger. So strong that no one will dare to sneak up on us and snatch our food." Mandy was a little disappointed. She pouted. "Without you around, the atmosphere in the tribe will be weird. It's as if we are missing our backbone. It makes people feel uneasy." Gu Mingming patted Mandy's little head. "Don't worry, everything will get better. Take your claws off her." Ian tooted. His tone was not very friendly. Without Wabi-Ai around, Ian was the only one left to bicker with Gu Mingming. Gu Mingming smirked mischievously. She removed her hand from Mandy's head and spread her palm out in front of Mandy. She stared at Ian provocatively and shouted, "Mandy, come, let's hold hands." Ian's eyes were fixed on Gu Mingming. Mandy felt overwhelmed by the favor. She carefully placed her fingertips on Gu Mingming's palm. Gu Mingming lifted her hand up and grabbed Mandy's little hand. Then, she purposely spread her fingers in front of Ian. She interlocked her fingers with Mandy. Then she raised her chin and raised her brows. She looked at Ian with a "bite me if you have the guts" expression. Ian tooted. He turned to look at Elvis. "Your female is seducing others like this. Aren't you going to stop her?" Elvis's expression did not change. He just tore off a small piece of roasted meat from Leah and sent it to Gu Mingming's mouth. "My Xiaoming likes to bully others. It's her good fortune to have taken a liking to your Mandy. Snatch her back if you have the ability. If not, learn from Bode." "Learn from Bode?" Ian asked. Elvis looked up and said calmly, "I accept my fate." Ian was so angry that he wanted to snatch Mandy back from Gu Mingming's hands. But when he saw how happy Mandy was looking at Gu Mingming with starry eyes, he forced himself to stop. Ian had admitted defeat too quickly. This made Gu Mingming feel very unhappy. When the person being provoked did not react, the provocation became especially boring. Gu Mingming let go of Mandy's hand, then hooked her finger to beckon Mandy to come closer. Mandy did not understand and just did as she was told. Then Gu Mingming whispered into her ear, "After the night campfire party, come to my cave. I have something to tell you." Mandy was very puzzled. What could they not say here? But she didn't ask any questions and just nodded obediently. The males in the beast world had excellent hearing, especially at such a close distance. Ian's face turned green. He hugged Mandy's shoulders and pulled her into his arms. He stared at Gu Mingming with his sickly face. "Are you really going to bully others? I'm telling you, unless you kill me now, I won't allow you to do whatever you want to Mandy." Puff! Gu Mingming almost choked on her own saliva. She stared at Ian with widened eyes. "What do you think I want to do to Mandy?" Ian's face flushed red and he looked at Gu Mingming as if he was looking at his love rival. After holding it in for a long time, he said, why don't I fly to Sauter overnight and bring Sandy back for you tomorrow? No matter what you want to do, just look for Sandy. Gu Mingming held back her laughter. She understood that Ian must have thought of her as a lesbian. Chapter 1132. No, no. Mandy hurriedly shook her head and instinctively struggled out of Ian's embrace. She squatted down in front of Gu Mingming and looked straight into her eyes. Afraid that she would misunderstand, she explained, "You are the great messenger that I admire the most. How can I not like you?" Gu Mingming glanced at Ian with a sly and provocative look, like a mischievous child playing a prank. "So, do you like me?" Gu Mingming asked deliberately. Mandy nodded without hesitation. "I like you, of course I like you." Gu Mingming pounced forward and hugged Mandy tightly. She rested her chin on Mandy's shoulder and looked at Ian with her big eyes full of smiles. "I like Mandy too. I like her very, very much," Ian nodded. Ian was going crazy but could not do anything to Gu Mingming. Elvis held onto the back of Gu Mingming's collar and pulled her back into his arms. He said calmly, "You look at her more than you look at me. I am jealous." Gu Mingming giggled and held Elvis's face with both hands. She kissed him and said, "All right, I will stop fooling around. Let's eat." It was mainly because Ian's angry look was too interesting. Otherwise, Gu Mingming would not have teased Mandy like that. But, Gu Mingming had never thought that she would be mistaken as a homosexual one day. Did Elvis and Leah also have such subtle feelings when she fantasized about them in the past? Leah seemed to be alright, but Elvis seemed to explode at the mention of such things. He would definitely not be able to accept it. Compared to the two of them, Gu Mingming felt that her acceptance level was rather high. It was not real anyway. It was just fooling around. After settling the proper business, Gu Mingming did not have much interest in fooling around with the entire tribe. After all, according to tradition, what was about to happen next would not be harmonious. It was almost winter and the males naturally wanted to fight for the last chance to confess to the females they admired. Not interested in watching everyone clap for love, Gu Mingming left early and returned to the cave. Not long after, Mandy also found an excuse to leave. She circled around the area and headed to Gu Mingming's cave. Ian followed closely as if guarding against thieves, as if he was afraid that Gu Mingming would eat Mandy up. Gu Mingming could not be bothered to argue with him and just sprawled lazily by the stone table. When she saw Mandy, she waved her hand and gestured for her to sit over. After Mandy sat down, Leah carried a big pot of meat to the table. "My Mingming cannot eat too much barbecued meat. She will have a nosebleed, so I came back to prepare a special stove. If you can still eat, why don't you accompany my Mingming to eat some?" Mandy was overjoyed and nodded repeatedly. Leah very gentlemanly took out 2 bowls, one for Gu Mingming and the other for Mandy. Then he scooped 2 bowls of meat for the 2 females to chat while they ate. Gu Mingming didn't beat around the bush and said directly, "Mandy, I called you here today because I want to drag you down with me to do something bad." Mandy looked at Gu Mingming as she ate. "All right, what are you doing?" Gu Mingming chuckled. Perhaps this was the effect of idols? This Mandy, she actually agreed first before asking what it was about. Because of her admiration, she felt that idols were extremely beautiful even when they scratched their feet. Fortunately, she was not a bad person. Otherwise, even if she were to be sold, she would still be counting the money. Chapter 1133. Mandy looked at Gu Mingming, not really understanding. Gu Mingming said, "I want all females to keep their distance from her and not play with her." Mandy nodded in realization and said with a smile, "Ah, I understand now that you put it this way." Without asking why, Mandy nodded and continued, "No problem, leave this matter to me. Before sunset tomorrow, I guarantee that none of the 16 valued females will bother with her." Gu Mingming chuckled approvingly. Then she added, "But you can't let anyone know that I am the one who ordered you to do this." Mandy nodded. "No problem." Gu Mingming scooped another bowl of meat for Mandy. "Eat more." Mandy replied and ate a few more bowls. Gu Mingming's appetite wasn't big and she had roasted meat during the night campfire party. Hence, most of the stewed meat went into Mandy's stomach. After finishing her meal, Mandy licked her lips and bade farewell to Gu Mingming reluctantly. She then followed Ian back to her own cave. Leah smiled at Gu Mingming as he tidied up the cutlery. "Looks like we have the same idea." Gu Mingming chuckled in Elvis's arms. In the beast world, females are the most respected. Mated males treat their females like deities. As long as the 16 valued females ostracize Maya, it will be difficult for her to do anything in Saint Nazir. After all, half of the people in Saint Nazaire are males from the 16 valued females. The other half are their pursuers. Without anyone to cooperate, Maya can't do anything. Leah continued Gu Mingming's words with approval. Gu Mingming nodded. I never thought that Maya had a problem before, so I didn't think so. Now that I think about it, Nina was really wronged. Her domineering personality was at least 80% due to Maya's incitement, right? I even thought that Maya was the one bullying Maya and that Maya was the type to swallow her anger. I didn't expect her to be the other way around. Leah rubbed his nose. It was rare for him to feel guilty. After all, he was the one who allowed Maya to incite Nina. Elvis could tell that Leah was feeling uneasy, so he interrupted. Do you really think Mandy can order those females around? I think they're also fighting each other openly and covertly. They don't look like they'll be obedient. Gu Mingming smiled and said, give them a common enemy and they will naturally unite. Actually, Elvis did not quite understand what Gu Mingming meant, so she explained, humans have a crowd mentality. When everyone did this, it became a matter of course. Even if you felt that something was wrong, if you didn't do it, you would become an anomaly. This would make people very uneasy and they would compromise with themselves. In the end, they would go with the flow. In order to prove that he wasn't an anomaly, he suppressed the uneasiness in his heart and went even further than ordinary people. Elvis did not understand, but Lee's smile deepened. He even stopped washing the dishes and sat beside Gu Mingming, attentively listening to Gu Mingming's analysis. Gu Mingming had a feeling that the great Gu hoodwinking lecture was about to start again. Chapter 1134. Let's take Maya as an example. Gu Mingming chuckled, then continued, I purposely arranged for her to sit beside me during the night campfire party today, and even called her over to my campfire to talk for a while. This was an opportunity for her to be hated. Elvis looked at Gu Mingming in confusion, asking, but Mandy also sat beside you and went to talk to you, so will she be ostracized too? Gu Mingming shook her head and said, Mandy is the first beauty of the beast world that I personally named. She has taken the little bamboo cup that I personally made and has become my partner with my good friend Ian. She can come to the cave to eat, chat and play with me whenever she wants. If she sits beside me, everyone will only take it for granted. But Maya is different. Gu Mingming's gaze turned cold and with a hint of slyness she said, although the 16 valued females come from different tribes, they came to Saint Nazaire together. They are on the same starting line and have a kind of empathy for one another. And Maya, the original half-orc female of Saint Nazaire, will never be able to blend into the circle of the 16 valued females. If she had a good relationship with me like Sandy, it would still be alright. But unfortunately, our relationship is just SOSO. If Leah had not suggested for me to reveal the news to her today, I would have forgotten about this person. Gu Mingming paused, then said, if I really forget about her, it would be a good thing for her. After all, she knows how to show her weakness, putting on a cowardly look whenever she meets people, and is highly deceptive. Most females would not make things difficult for her, because a complete female would not even bother to treat a half-orc female like her as an opponent. But she just had to be like this, suddenly becoming the center of attention today. There must be some among the 16 valued females who are unconvinced, such as what right does a lowly half-orc female like her have to sit beside the messenger of the beast deity? Or, just because she is an original female of Saint Nazaire, she can claim a relationship with the messenger? How shameless, and other reasons are enough to make her ostracize. Gu Mingming took a deep breath and continued, and what Mandy has to do is just to randomly start a conversation, then add some fuel to the fire. Leah held his cheek and looked at Gu Mingming, his long and narrow eyes filled with approval. He loved Gu Mingming's craftiness like a little fox, it was really charming. Lusting after her radiant look, Leah continued asking, are you so sure that those females will only target Maya and won't implicate Mandy? Gu Mingming nodded without a doubt and said, girls will not be jealous of Fan Bingbing's beauty, but they will be jealous of Wang Erhua from the class next door who has lost another 2 kilograms, and the neighbor Zhao Xiaomei's newly removed double eyelids are especially beautiful. Who were Fan Bingbing, Wang Erhua and Zhao Xiaomei? Looking at Leah and Elvis's confused faces, Gu Mingming knew that they would not understand her explanation. So she changed her explanation. Let's put it this way, for example, one day you suddenly say that you don't want me anymore and that you like someone else. Then, when I see that the person you like is Melinda, I might start bawling and scold you for being a scum. Then, after the emotional trauma has passed, I will slowly recover. But if the person you like is Nina, then I will definitely be unhappy. She is not as good as me in every aspect. Do you want her to not want me? This is simply trampling on my dignity. I can tolerate it, but I can't. We have to fight it out, right? Aside from the topic, regarding Maya, let me say a few words. This person did not suddenly turn evil. Actually, I have mentioned it in the previous chapter. I don't know if everyone still remembers it. When Gu Mingming left the Snake King Valley and brought her tribesmen back to Saint Nazir from Sauter, they encountered stray beasts on the way. Then how did the stray beasts know their route and exact time? At that time, Gu Mingming was already a beast king. If someone was following them, they would definitely discover it. So there must be a traitor. Cole used a worm on Leah, messing up his rationality and driving him crazy with jealousy. The last straw that broke the camel's back was when Maya said, Burke brought Kanwu and the rest along with Gu Mingming. They are more like a family than Leah. 3. Previously, on the grassland outside Sauter, the half-orc female who was with Cole was also Maya. I don't want my babies to become conspiracy theorists, but I'm afraid that you will feel that Maya's turn to evil was too sudden, so I'm going to recap the past. Chapter 1135. Li's face darkened. He looked at Gu Mingming and asked, So, you were crying and throwing a tantrum back then not because you were sad about leaving me, but because you felt indignant about losing to Nina? Am I right? Gu Mingming did not react in time and could not keep up with Li's pace. She was stunned for a while before she understood that her analogy had struck an old wound in Li's heart. So she quickly smoothed it out and said, I was just making an analogy, I didn't mean it that way. Leah clearly did not believe her. He frowned and his long and narrow eyes were filled with desolation. The words I am sad were clearly written on his face. Gu Mingming did not know whether to laugh or cry. How long had it been? Sigh. The speaker did not mean it, but the listener did. Gu Mingming held Li's face and kissed it. She said, Then I won't use Nina as an analogy. I'll use Maya, alright? If you abandon me because of Maya, I will definitely be indignant. Leah looked down and twisted his fingers. He pursed his thin lips and said, You still blame me, right? Because of that, you have a knot in your heart, so you don't believe me anymore, right? In your heart, you can't get rid of the fact that I abandoned you, right? Gu Mingming facepalmed. Why did she feel like she was making things worse? Why was she coaxing him making things worse? No. Gu Mingming held Li's face with both hands and wanted to explain. Leah raised his brows slightly and choked with emotions. He said, You don't have to deny it. I understand. Who asked me to be the one at fault back then? Gu Mingming said, No. Leah turned his head to the other side and looked like he was about to cry. He looked extremely wronged. Gu Mingming saw that she could not coax him anymore. So she narrowed her eyes and quickly pinched Li's ear. She said, Yes, I was just unhappy with the show you put up with Nina. Regardless of whether it was real or fake, I can't forgive you for saying that you don't love me. So you better stay away from other females in the future. If I see you being nice to other females other than me again, I will pinch your ear off. Do you hear me? With Gu Mingming's roar, Leah was no longer pretentious. He looked at Gu Mingming affectionately and nodded his head seriously, like a Samoyed being reprimanded by its owner. He looked innocent and pitiful, making others dote on him. He took the initiative to wrap his arms around Gu Mingming's waist and gave her a full hug. My Gu Mingming is the best. I knew you wouldn't care about me. Gu Mingming held her forehead and heaved a sigh of relief. What kind of despicable person was Leah? She couldn't coax him, so after shouting a few times he calmed down. But wasn't he analyzing Maya's situation just now? What was I saying? But I have to correct one thing. Leah rested his chin on Gu Mingming's shoulder and looked at her sideways. Melinda is not as good as you. Everyone in this world is not as good as you. You won't lose to anyone. Gu Mingming could not help but laugh out loud. She was actually happy to be praised by her own man. Even though Gu Mingming felt that objectively speaking, Melinda was prettier than her. But who wouldn't want to be the prettiest girl in her man's heart? Gu Mingming hugged Li's head with both hands and rubbed it. Then she continued. Yeah, you have good taste. Keep it up. Because of Li's interruption, Gu Mingming had forgotten to analyze this matter in detail. But anyway, the results would be displayed in front of her tomorrow. There was no difference whether she analyzed it or not. Aside from the topic, there were still 4 days before the release. Yeah, it should be around 120,000 on the first day. Babies, are you surprised? Are you surprised? Chapter 1136. Mandy indeed did not disappoint Gu Mingming. The next morning was still fine, but by noon the atmosphere in Saint Nazir was clearly different. As Elvis had already stored enough food and did not need to go out hunting, Gu Mingming let him accompany her to walk around the tribe. On one hand it was to check if there were any loopholes, and on the other hand she wanted to see Mandy's results. By the stream, the 16 valued females were sitting in a circle discussing something. When they saw Gu Mingming, they all stood up and greeted her in a docile manner. Gu Mingming waved at Mandy, who walked over with a smile. "What were you talking about just now? Why are you smiling so happily?" Gu Mingming asked, even though she already knew the answer. After all, with her current hearing, she had already heard their conversation from afar. Mandy chuckled and replied, "Liana and the rest took in a few new males last night and are showing us her mating marks." Yeah, Gu Mingming heard this just now. Liana's new partner last night, mark on her butt. To prevent Liana from lifting up her beast skin skirt to show her new mark, Gu Mingming spoke first. "Last winter, there were 3 females in Solder who gave birth to cubs, and one was pregnant with a female cub. This year all of you must fight hard for me. Don't let others say that my 16 valued females are good-looking but useless, understand? Great Messenger, don't worry. We have sufficient food this winter, and with you, the leader and the witch doctor around, we don't need to worry about being disturbed. We will work hard to mate and fight hard for the Great Messenger when winter ends next year. We won't let those foxes in Solder lose out." The one speaking was Liana. Gu Mingming nodded in satisfaction and said, "Females are the tribe's precious resource, and cubs are the foundation of a tribe's strength. All of you must work hard, the glory of Saint Nazir depends on all of you." The females were all fighting to be the first to agree to Gu Mingming's request, as if they were injected with chicken blood. Gu Mingming nodded in satisfaction and thought to herself, "Males, this is as far as I can help you." As they were chatting and laughing, Maya also arrived at the stream. But before they even got close, the faces of the 16 valued females darkened. Gu Mingming pretended not to understand and looked at everyone, then at Maya, not saying a word. Mandy exchanged glances with the 16 valued females before walking to Gu Mingming's side. She said coquettishly, "Gu Mingming, I have a secret to tell you. Follow me back to my cave to take a look, alright?" Gu Mingming naturally had to go along with Mandy's act, so she nodded. "Alright." After agreeing, he said to the others, "Sorry girls, Mandy and I will be leaving first. I'll chat with you another day. Take care, Great Messenger." "Goodbye, Great Messenger." The 16 valued females smiled and waved at Gu Mingming, then watched her leave. In actual fact, Gu Mingming and Mandy had secretly returned to the stream after taking a detour. But this time, they hid behind a large tree in the distance, quietly observing the situation by the stream without revealing themselves. "Hey, half-beast female." Liana was the first to attack. She took a step forward and stood in front of Maya. She said, "We sisters want to rest by the stream. Get lost." Chapter 1137. "I'm also a female of Saint Nazir," Maya said timidly. Liana chuckled and crossed her arms in front of her chest. "So what? We are complete females and have the right to enjoy the tribe's resources first. A lowly half-orc female like you dares to snatch from us?" After Nina's death, it had been a long time since anyone in Saint Nazir talked about complete females and half-orc females. Because of Gu Mingming's relationship with Sandy, she was very lenient towards the half-orc females. Hence, the 16 valued females had been very restrained in the past year and had never argued with Sandy and Maya. However, the sense of superiority that had been ingrained from birth could not be completely worn away in just over a year. There was really no need to learn how to flaunt their prowess in front of the half-orc females. Every complete female could do it easily. Especially when the 15 present were the original first beauties of the tribe. This sense of superiority was even more obvious. All of them were at the peak of their abilities. Gu Mingming said that in Saint Nazir, half-orc females are not inferior to complete females. "We are all the same." Maya could not keep up the act any longer. She clenched her fists tightly by her side and her voice was sharp. Liana looked as if she had heard a joke. She lifted her chin and looked at Maya. "Oh, are you trying to curry favor with the Great Messenger just because you are an old tribesman of Saint Nazir? Are you trying to show how close you are to the Great Messenger so that you can use her name to pressure us?" "That's not what I meant." Maya felt that things were getting out of hand. Everything had been fine yesterday, but she did not know why things had turned out this way today. Her males had gone out to hunt in the morning and all of them were injured when they returned. She asked in detail and found out that they had been bullied by the males of the 16 valued females. Not only had they snatched their prey, they had also severely injured them. Although Saint Nazir had a witch doctor, the injuries of ordinary males could not even trouble Leah to treat them. Hence they could only force themselves to endure. Maya did not know what had happened, so she specially ran over to the stream to find out what was going on. In the end, she realized that these females had started to target her for no reason. All of this was too sudden. She couldn't understand what was going on. Liana did not have the patience to talk nonsense with Maya. She just took a step back and said, "Where are your males? Are they here? What do you want?" Maya looked at the 16 valued females standing in front of her, her heart pounding. Liana said, "I don't want to see you here. You can either scram immediately, or let your male come out and compete with our male. The winner will stay." As soon as Liana finished speaking, the 16 valued females gave their partners a meaningful look, and the accompanying males gathered in unison. In the beast world, a female would have at least 2 family members by her side, the first partner and the strongest male in the family. The 2 of them usually didn't need to go out to hunt. They would always stay by the female's side to ensure that she lived comfortably and safely. Just like Sandy's Boyd and Colin and Mandy's Ralph and Ian. Therefore, almost all the orcs that surrounded them were level 3 and level 4 orcs. Maya only had a level 2 wolf, Nissan, with her. How could she possibly be a match for them? You. Maya's eyes reddened. She stomped her feet, turned around and ran away. She looked extremely wronged. Chapter 1138. Liana snorted coldly. "Do you think we can hide our little tricks from the Great Messenger?" "You mean?" Liana continued. With the Great Messenger's intelligence, the moment Mandy said we were going to pull her away, she knew what we were going to do. If the Great Messenger wanted to help that half-orc female, she could have stayed or asked her to leave with her. But the Great Messenger left with Mandy without even turning back. Isn't it obvious that she will not side with her? "Yeah, that makes sense." Another female agreed. Liana continued. "Maya is not Sandy. Even if she really complained to the Great Messenger, she will not pursue the matter even if we deny it. But, if she really dares to sow discord in front of the Great Messenger and ruin our image, we will show her the prowess of the 16 valued females." The 10 over females roared with laughter. Then they all started to think about how to teach Maya a lesson. Elvis, who had been by Gu Mingming's side all along, felt his scalp go numb. He carried Gu Mingming up and turned to leave. No way, these females were too scary. He could not let Xiaoming stay with them anymore. She would be scared. However, he seemed to have forgotten. The one who had instigated these females to target Maya was the little fairy in his arms. After walking for some distance, Gu Mingming patted Mandy's shoulder. "Now that I have dragged you down with me, we can be considered to have been in the same boat. Although Ian had never been my messenger's protector, his importance to me wasn't any lower than Colin's. So, you can treat me like a good friend like Sandy in the future. When you need my help, you can look for me in my cave. When you miss me, you can also look for me, yeah." Mandy smiled so widely that only her teeth could be seen. It was 70% blissful and 30% sweet. Gu Mingming smiled back. "It's almost noon. Do you want to have lunch together?" Mandy's eyes instinctively darted to Elvis's face. She was clearly trying to read his expression. It was almost winter, and by then, Gu Mingming would have to stay in the cave no matter how much she liked crowds. So before the snow sealed off the mountain, Elvis did not stop her even though he was unwilling. He nodded, silently allowing Mandy to accompany Gu Mingming for a meal. Mandy was overjoyed as she nodded. Then she turned to her partner and said, "Ralph, send me to the outskirts of Gu Mingming's territory, then go back and ask Ian to fetch me." "All right." Ralph nodded, then carried Mandy up and followed Elvis back to the cave. As winter was approaching, Oriton, who shared meals with them, treated every meal as his last. As a result, the amount of prey he brought back increased day by day, causing Leah, who was in charge of cooking, to have a bad expression on his face. There were a few times when he wanted to reject Oriton's request to share a meal with him, but on account of Gu Mingming, he held himself back. When Gu Mingming returned, she saw Oriton circling around the pot. Barit was like a silent ranger sitting quietly at the entrance of the cave, his deep and precise gaze capturing Gu Mingming's figure. Meanwhile, Leah was looking at Oriton with disdain while cooking. Seeing that Gu Mingming had returned, the smile on his face turned warmer. Chapter 1139. TSK. Leah was speechless as he shook his head in amazement. "This female's technique is really..." Gu Mingming chuckled and continued Li's sentence. "There is no smoke on a woman's battlefield, but it is far crueler than a man's. Leah nodded in deep agreement. Just hearing Gu Mingming's plan to deal with Maya from the 16 valued females was already enough to make Leah gasp in amazement. He had always thought that the Snow Fox tribe was good at scheming, but now he realized that their so-called scheming only applied to making use of others. They would only act after obtaining benefits, so as long as they followed the lines of benefits, they would always be able to find clues. Even for a pervert like Cole, there were still benefits to be gained from guessing people's intentions. But when the females were ruthless, they would simply harm you without any benefits at all. Their motives were so pure that it made one speechless. So much so that it was impossible to deduce the course of events from the conclusion, because the final outcome would be someone's misfortune, and no one would gain anything from it. Leah facepalmed as he thought about it. He suddenly felt that those accidents that he did not take to heart in the past were not so simple. Gu Mingming did not say much and just continued eating from her bowl. With the 16 valued females taking care of Maya, even if I am not in Saint Nazaire, Maya's days will not be too boring. He would not have the time and energy to obstruct Gu Mingming's actions. Mandy finished the meat in her bowl, then looked up at Gu Mingming. Gu Mingming, there is something I feel I should tell you. Gu Mingming looked back at Mandy, inquiring with her eyes. Mandy said, when I went to meet the 16 valued females this morning, I purposely raised the topic of Maya and heard something strange. Mm? Gu Mingming replied with a single syllable, indicating for Mandy to continue. Mandy continued, during the rainy season last year, there were many people from other tribes who came to Saint Nazaire to snatch food. But every time there was an invasion, Maya was not in the tribe. Even though a lot of her food was snatched away when we saw her at the end of winter, we realized that she did not lose any weight at all. Moreover, her partners were all there. What he meant was that even though Maya's food had been stolen, she was still able to enjoy a sumptuous winter, and it wasn't at the expense of eating her companion. Gu Mingming chuckled. She was not surprised by this outcome at all. She just exchanged a look with Leah and it was a tacit understanding. Oakley wanted to use the water source to push Solder to the teeth of the storm to coerce Cole, so Cole used the food to drag Saint Nazaire into the water to share the risk. Since it was Cole's doing, he would naturally give Maya some pointers. After all, most of the males who would come to snatch the food were already mated. In order to prevent their own females from starving, there was a high possibility that they would kill Maya when snatching the food. After all, as long as Maya died, her male would be devoured by the mating contract. This way, the food that her family had stored up would become ownerless, and they could take whatever they wanted. Maya was an important chess piece in the game between Cole and Leah. Naturally, Cole would not let Maya die so easily. So it was natural for him to give her a few pointers before she made a move. He couldn't let the food robbers kill Maya, and naturally he wouldn't let her starve to death during the winter. Chapter 1140. Mandy saw that Gu Mingming was not surprised at all and was even exchanging glances with Leah. Mandy thought for a moment and asked, "You already knew?" Gu Mingming did not hide anything from Maya and nodded. "Yeah, I knew." Mandy nodded. "That's true. You are the messenger of the beast deity. You must know everything." Gu Mingming chuckled. She thought to herself that the messenger of the beast deity was not a half-immortal. How could she know everything? It was just that Leah had told her about Maya's identity. Many things became clear at a glance. There was no need to explain too much. Sometimes it was good to maintain a sense of mystery. Mandy had just finished the meat in her bowl when Ian came to fetch her. He even placed a beast skin bag on the table. "My man has freeloaded a few meals at your place. Consider this a gift in return." With that, Ian did not waste any more words. He carried Mandy and flew into the sky. Gu Mingming snorted arrogantly. "So what if you can fly?" A reply came from the sky. "Yes, it's great to be able to fly." Gu Mingming waved her fist and roared. "Just you wait." Despite her roar, Gu Mingming was not really angry. She just casually flipped open the beast skin bag on the table. There were over 50 bird eggs the size of chicken eggs inside. According to the ratio in the beast world, these eggs were probably equivalent to quail eggs in the modern world. Leah craned his neck to take a look. He smiled. "And you're good. It's almost winter and the birds are not laying eggs anymore. You must have flown for a long time to find these, right?" Laughing, Leah raised his voice and shouted in the direction that Ian had flown off to. "Hain, welcome your female to join us for a meal again." Gu Mingming burst out laughing. If Leah were to wave a handkerchief in his hand now, he would look like a brothel madam from a television drama. Leah did not know what Gu Mingming was laughing at. He just habitually curled his lips at her smile. Then he turned around to continue preparing the food. Elvis, who had been silent all this while, tightened his arms around Gu Mingming's waist. Xiaoming, in the future, you better not hang out with the 16 valued females. They are too dangerous. Gu Mingming turned around and asked Elvis with a smile, "Are you scared?" Elvis nodded. If it was a tactic aimed at him, he was not afraid of anything. But he was especially afraid that those methods would be used on Gu Mingming one day. In the past he had felt that females were annoying, but now he felt that they were terrifying. Gu Mingming leaned into Elvis's arms and patted his back lightly to comfort him. "Don't worry, they won't use those tricks on me. Even if he used it, it wouldn't be enough in front of me. I've watched more than 700 episodes of Detective Conan, and I'm proficient in more than 600 ways to kill people. I'm familiar with hundreds of poisons and know how to create all kinds of alibis." Seeing how Gu Mingming was spouting nonsense, Elvis's mood suddenly became better. No matter what others wanted to do to her, he would always be there to protect her. Time passed quickly, and in the blink of an eye, the mountain was covered in snow. Gu Mingming sat at the entrance of the cave. Holding her chin, she watched as the entrance, which could fit 3 people side by side, was gradually sealed by the snow. Her gaze became a little dazed. Elvis hugged Gu Mingming from behind and whispered into her ear, "It's too cold, don't sit at the entrance." Chapter 1141. Ever since Gu Mingming inherited Elvis's night vision ability, they no longer stayed in the outermost chamber of the cave. It was too close to the cave entrance and was not the most comfortable place in the cave. Previously, they stayed there just to accommodate Gu Mingming's need for a light source. Gu Mingming rubbed her little hands and said, "On the first day of sealing the mountain, I'll let you guys try something good." Elvis and Leah looked at each other, not knowing what Gu Mingming meant. After all, every piece of meat and potato in this cave was carried back by the 2 of them personally. What other good things could make Gu Mingming act so mysteriously? But since the little female had such an interest, the 2 of them were naturally willing to cooperate. So they smiled and looked at Gu Mingming expectantly. Gu Mingming took the small bamboo cup that she made in the bamboo forest and walked to the side of the wooden barrel. She lifted the lid and leaned against the barrel to smell it. Yeah, a fruity aroma mixed with a rich wine aroma. It should be drinkable. Gu Mingming did not pass it to Elvis and Leah hastily. She first poured half a cup into her own small cup and tasted it carefully. Without professional equipment, she could not extract the sugar, so the sourness was not balanced. It was more like grape juice than red wine. But if one tasted it carefully, it was not difficult to discover that there was alcohol in it. Actually, the taste was still very good. But Gu Mingming herself had not drunk any high-quality wine in the modern world. But compared to the Great Wall Dry Red, Gu Mingming felt that her portion was still better. Gu Mingming then poured a cup for Leah and Elvis respectively after the wine was fine. Then she gestured for them to try it. Leah was a little surprised. He knocked on the wooden barrel and said, "This is for drinking? I thought you wanted to use it for bathing." Gu Mingming could not help but laugh and said, "I've only heard of people using milk to bathe. I've never seen anyone using red wine to bathe." "Red wine?" Leah asked. Gu Mingming nodded and answered, "Yeah, usually wine is brewed from grains. But I've been here for more than 2 years and have never seen a single grain of rice. I can't even eat it, let alone brew wine. Luckily, grapes can also be used to brew wine. Although the purity is not high, it's still good to drink it. Would you like to try it?" Elvis and Leah did not say anything else. Anything given by Gu Mingming, even if it was poison, they would drink it in one gulp and praise it as delicious. What more, a glass of wine? The way they drank without hesitation made Gu Mingming frown. Red wine was a matter of taste. How did these 2 manage to taste like guillotine? If there was a wooden board stuck on the back of their necks, the 2 of them should have smashed the cup after drinking this bowl of wine, and then righteously said, 18 years later, we will be heroes again." Before Gu Mingming could complain, she heard a loud thud and Elvis fell straight onto the ground. Gu Mingming was shocked and immediately squatted down to hug Elvis's head, patting his face and calling, "Hubby? Hubby, what happened to you? Are you allergic to grapes? Don't scare me." Huff, huff, huff. Gu Mingming was taken aback for a moment. She blinked her eyes and looked at Elvis, whose face was rosy and his breathing was even and did not look like he was allergic at all. She was stunned for a moment before she laughed dryly and said, "It can't be. 1 cup and you'll pass out." Chapter 1142. Leah. Gu Mingming did not know whether to laugh or cry. She should not have allowed them to drink at the same time. She had forgotten that there were no alcohol products in the beast world and these two had no resistance to it at all. She had thought that they might get drunk, but she did not expect them to be so drunk after just one cup. Leah frowned and pinched Gu Mingming's face with his large hands, forcefully turning her mouth into a fish's mouth. Then he kissed her harshly and said angrily, "What did you call me?" Leah. Before Gu Mingming could finish her sentence, Leah kissed her again, crushing the word "ya" in her mouth. Squinting his dangerous eyes, Leah said domineeringly, "Call me daddy." Gu Mingming really wanted to spit a mouthful of red wine on Lee's face. Ever since she gave birth to Huda and his brothers, she did not call him daddy anymore. She thought he had long forgotten about it. "Stop fooling around, let me put Elvis on the bed first, alright?" Gu Mingming tried to reason with Leah. But Leah did not care about that and squeezed himself in between Gu Mingming and Elvis. Then he squeezed Elvis out of Gu Mingming's embrace and made her his own. His large tail wrapped around her waist and he clung onto Gu Mingming like an octopus, saying, "Call me daddy, quickly call me daddy." Leah, Leah did not stop until he heard Gu Mingming call him daddy. He kissed her lips harshly again. When they let go, both of their lips were slightly swollen. His gaze was filled with hidden bitterness and his drunken state was the most blurry. His gaze landed on Gu Mingming's face and he said softly, "In the past you would always call me Leah daddy obediently, but now you don't. Gu Mingming, little Gu Mingming, did you have a change of heart? Do you think I don't look good anymore?" Gu Mingming knew that Leah was drunk, so she gave up trying to reason with a drunkard. She could only go along with his wishes and called out softly, "Daddy Leah." Leah froze for half a second before suddenly crying. As he cried, he hugged Gu Mingming and kissed her randomly. He choked as he kissed. I must be dying, right? Otherwise why would you be so obedient? You must be thinking that I'm going to die. Sob, 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 I don't want to die yet, I still want to accompany you. What will you do if I die? You can't eat Elvis's cooking, you'll be poisoned to death. Was the logic of a drunkard fed to the dogs? He asked her to call Leah daddy and she did, so he was going to die? What the F***ck was this? This was the first time Gu Mingming saw Leah cry, and it was in such a situation. Sighing, Gu Mingming hugged Leah back and patted his back to comfort him. You won't die. You still want to grow old with me, don't you?" "Yes." Leah cried aggrievedly and only managed to spit out one word after a few turns. Gu Mingming said, "All right, come down quickly, you're so heavy. Mingming, do you still like me?" Leah didn't get up and just looked at Gu Mingming drunkenly. Gu Mingming was helpless and could only reply with a smile, "I like it, of course I like it." Leah nodded in satisfaction, then said, "Then you lick me." Chapter 1143. Leah stuck out his tongue and licked Gu Mingming's face, saying, "Here, just like this." Similar to how dogs express their love? Yeah, orcs still had some beast genes in them. Licking should be the most direct way for them to express their love, right? But it was so embarrassing, Gu Mingming felt that she could not do it. "You don't like it?" Lee's gaze was blurry with a tinge of infatuation and drunkenness. He stuck out his pink tongue and licked the tip of Gu Mingming's nose, saying, "I like Gu Mingming so much, why can't Gu Mingming like me a little too?" Gu Mingming felt all the bones in her body go limp after being licked by Leah. "Don't stop fooling around." Leah paused, then sniffed. He suddenly smiled and hooked Gu Mingming's chin with his index finger, saying, "I can smell the scent of the fox seductive fragrance. My Gu Mingming is aroused, because of me, right? You like me licking you?" No. Gu Mingming wanted to kill herself. Leah was clearly teasing her unconsciously when he was drunk, but her damn body actually reacted. Gu Mingming despised herself harshly in her heart and kept telling herself to stay calm, stay calm. It was a perverted act to lay hands on someone who was not in his right mind. She was a good wife from a good family, she would not do such a thing. Leah bit Gu Mingming's lips. Hearing Gu Mingming gasping in pain, he seemed to be smiling happily, wiping away his tears and curling his lips, saying, "Punish you, who asked you not to tell the truth? Gu Mingming, you're not good, you secreted so much fox seductive fragrance when I licked you. The last time when I licked here, the concentration of the fox seductive fragrance almost made me lose consciousness." His slender fingers gently wiped Gu Mingming's lips, asking, "Did I bite you?" It's all red, it must be painful." As he said, he pulled Gu Mingming's hand and placed it on his chest, saying, "If you're in pain, I feel the pain too. Damn, don't bite me if you're feeling heartache." Moreover, what kind of scene was that when he said that he felt heartache and smiled at the same time? Seeing that Gu Mingming was not saying anything, Leah blinked his eyes as if his brain was broken and he was trying hard to organize his thoughts. After a long while he finally said, "Why don't I lick you? You can lick me after you're happy?" Gu Mingming was really speechless. They were not even two damn dogs, why were they licking? Gu Mingming hardened her heart and thought if she should just release some beast pressure to make Leah faint. But before she could do anything, she heard a sound from the side. When she looked up, Elvis, who was lying on the ground like a corpse, was already standing there with his hands behind his back. He was looking down at Gu Mingming, who was lying on the ground under Leah. "Xiaoming, get up." Elvis's voice was cold and his expression was sinister. He looked completely different from his usual self. Gu Mingming was a little terrified. Could it be that she developed a second personality after drinking? She pushed Leah, but Leah just lay on Gu Mingming's body, refusing to get up. Gu Mingming had no choice but to look up at Elvis. In the end, the moment she met his eyes, she felt her body becoming lighter. Leah was thrown out by Elvis in a parabola trajectory, crashing heavily against the cave wall. Elvis then lifted Gu Mingming up and said coldly, "I said get up." Damn, Elvis looked so scary after drinking. Could it be that he was going to commit domestic violence after drinking? Aside from the topic, these two fellows passed out after one drink. Their styles after getting drunk were completely different. Yeah, everyone can look forward to what kind of jokes these two fellows would make tomorrow. Chapter 1144. I'm up, I'm up. It had been a long time since Gu Mingming was carried by Elvis like this. Her feet did not touch the ground, and after kicking a few times, seeing that Elvis had no intention of putting her down, she just gave up and treated herself as a piece of laundry that was hung up. Elvis's blue eyes were bottomless and his expression was calm and sinister. He did not look like he was drunk, but an extremely calm killer executing a mission. This expression was actually Elvis's signature expression before he met Gu Mingming, but she had never seen him like this before. A large hand pinched Gu Mingming's lower jaw and his gaze locked onto her swollen lips. He frowned slightly and his blue eyes deepened. His voice was as cold as a bone-chilling wind. "He bit you?" Gu Mingming was thinking that Elvis's black and drunken look was not one to be trifled with. Should she lie for Leah? In the end, before she could say anything, her mouth was forcefully kissed by Elvis. His nimble tongue attacked the inside of her mouth, taking whatever he wanted and turning the world upside down. He kissed her until she almost suffocated before Elvis let go of her. There was not a hint of lust on his face and he was still as cold as an assassin. He opened his mouth and said calmly, "Let's go. There's his taste." After saying that, Gu Mingming felt her body lighten and she was free falling. Elvis let go without any warning and Gu Mingming fell onto the ground on her butt. Before she could get up, Elvis and Leah were already in a brawl. It was not the usual playful way of fighting. The two of them looked like they were fighting with their lives on the line. Did they really just drink a glass of wine with low purity? Were they sure they didn't drink concentrated alcohol? "Stop fighting," Gu Mingming roared. Leah was not Elvis's match due to the difference in their levels and was almost being suppressed by him. Elvis was stopped by Gu Mingming's roar. He turned to look at Gu Mingming and said coldly, "Don't butt in between males matters." After saying that, he threw another punch at Leah. Gu Mingming facepalmed. She did not expect Elvis to be so straight after getting drunk. She was momentarily speechless. While Elvis was distracted talking to Gu Mingming, Leah suddenly broke free from his restraint and shouted, "How dare you shout at my Gu Mingming?" She pounced towards Elvis and hung onto his back, biting his shoulder with all her might without letting go. Elvis's muscles tightened, but with only one level of difference, he could not shake off Leah as easily as Wabi did with the four little ones. He could only bend his body forward and roll on the ground, pinning Leah behind him. Leah heaved a sigh of relief from the pain on his back. Elvis took the opportunity to flip over and ride on Lee's body. His hands had already turned into sharp claws and he went straight for Lee's face. Gu Mingming saw that they would really die if she did not stop them. Hence, she clenched her fists and instantly released a huge amount of beast pressure, causing Elvis and Leah to fall to the ground in a second. Elvis's body went limp and he laid on Lee's body. Lee's claws had already pierced into Elvis's back and half of his nails were embedded in his flesh. One of Elvis's hands was holding onto Lee's silver hair tightly while the other hand that was about to attack Leah landed weakly beside Lee's ear. Chapter 1145. Gu Mingming sighed. Forget it, these two fellows had real fur on their bodies and they would not feel cold even if they slept on the floor. Just let them be. Gu Mingming shook her head helplessly and poured herself another glass of grape wine. She tasted it carefully and it tasted really good. Moreover, the purity was really not high. She did not know why the two of them were so drunk. After drinking 2 to 3 glasses, Gu Mingming felt tipsy, so she covered the glass and climbed back into bed to sleep. She did not know how long she slept in a daze. But when Gu Mingming woke up, Elvis and Leah had not woken up yet. The two of them were still in the same position as when they were fighting. But now they seemed to be more intimate. Elvis loosened his grip on Lee's hair, so he was no longer in a state of grabbing but, in my hand that went through your silver hair. His other hand that was originally going to attack Leah had now gone through the back of Lee's neck and was used as a pillow under his head. Lee's claws that were originally stuck in Elvis's waist had loosened a little and his nails had already been pulled out from his flesh. But now, his 2 arms were wrapped around Elvis's waist as if he was hugging him. 4 long legs were intertwined and the beast skin dress had already become crooked during the fight. It was a pathetic and ambiguous scene, and it was half covered and half exposed, making it even more tempting for one's imagination. Gu Mingming was stunned for a long time. She stared blankly at this scene that was even more seductive than a calcium film. Blood flowed down her nose uncontrollably. Elvis and Leah were traumatized by Gu Mingming's blood because of the scene of Gu Mingming's difficult labor when she gave birth to Kanwu and how Snakel carried Gu Mingming back in the Snake King Valley. So the moment they smelled her blood, the two of them woke up in shock. The first second after they opened their eyes, they were in a daze. Then, shock. Elvis and Leah originally thought that they were hugging Gu Mingming, so their first reaction when they opened their eyes was to stare at each other affectionately. But with just one look, the two of them were petrified. They immediately bounced back as if they were electrocuted. Then the two of them peeked at Gu Mingming in unison. Seeing the blood dripping from her nose, he gritted his teeth in anger, but there was nothing he could do. Elvis hugged Gu Mingming in his arms and supported the back of her head with his hand to raise her head. Leah, on the other hand, quickly went to the door and dug out 2 large chunks of snow, using his body to melt it into water, before patting it on Gu Mingming's forehead and nose bridge. The temperature of the snow was very low. After Leah melted the snow with his hands were also very cold. When he touched Gu Mingming's skin, there was an icy feeling and it was very comfortable. Gu Mingming squinted her eyes and giggled foolishly while Elvis and Lee's faces darkened even further. Erase whatever you're thinking about right now. Leah smacked Gu Mingming's forehead as he commanded, almost gritting his teeth. Gu Mingming feigned ignorance and smiled. What am I thinking? I wasn't thinking about anything. Leah looked at Gu Mingming coldly and pinched her little nose. You have a nosebleed when you didn't think of anything? Gu Mingming held back her laughter. She looked at Elvis and then at Leah. Then she stuck one hand into Lee's hair and the other around his neck. She looked at Leah lustfully and asked, Are you trying to make me forget about this? Chapter 1146. Just now when she woke up, Elvis was hugging Leah in this position, but the look between Elvis and Leah was definitely not like what Gu Mingming was showing now. But as the impact was too great, Elvis and Leah were already in a daze, so they did not notice this detail. With that, Gu Mingming turned around and walked behind Elvis. She crossed her legs around Elvis's waist and placed her right hand on Elvis's right shoulder. She lowered it and placed it on Elvis's chest while her left hand went under Elvis's left armpit and hooked upwards, touching Elvis's heart. Her little head landed on Elvis's left shoulder and she opened her mouth. Closing her teeth, she bit on Elvis's shoulder. Before she let go, she even licked Elvis's shoulder with the tip of her tiny tongue, causing Elvis to shudder. Gu Mingming smiled innocently, looking up at Leah and asked, Or do you want me to forget about this? With that, Gu Mingming got down from Elvis's body again, drawing circles on the bite mark on Elvis's left shoulder with her little hand. From the size of the bite mark, it was obvious that it was not Gu Mingming's, and there were 4 deeper holes, obviously made by her fangs. Leah instantly felt as if he was struck by lightning, staring at Gu Mingming in shock. The snow had sealed the mountain and there were only 3 people in this cave. Gu Mingming did not have fangs, so unless Elvis could pull his own head off and place it on his shoulder to bite himself, that bite mark could only be him. The scene of Gu Mingming seductively hanging onto Elvis's body replayed endlessly in Lee's mind, then automatically replaced with his own. Leah fell and sat on the ground, feeling as though all his hopes had been dashed to pieces. Elvis was not much better than Leah. The act of putting his hands in his hair and hugging his neck was imitated by Gu Mingming, then the act of hugging his back and biting his shoulder was obviously imitated by her. Elvis clenched his fists and asked in a cold voice, Leah and I, last night, happened? He could not bring himself to ask. Gu Mingming tried hard to hold back her laughter and said, "So many things happened, do you want me to replay them one by one for you to see?" "No need." Leah looked up abruptly and took a deep breath. Then he gritted his teeth and said, "You just have to tell me one thing. Between the two of us, who was on top and who was on bottom?" Gu Mingming was laughing like a dog in her heart, but it was such a rare opportunity. He had to hold it in. Thus, Gu Mingming tapped her chin lightly with her little hand, as if she was trying hard to recall. Then she said, "Oh, you were pressed down by Elvis yesterday? And beaten up." Gu Mingming did not say the last word naughtily. Li's face turned green and Elvis was no better. So, both of them betrayed Gu Mingming and did something indescribable in front of her? Elvis staggered to the side of the wine barrel and raised his paw to smash it. Gu Mingming was shocked and immediately rushed over to block the barrel. She stared wide-eyed at Elvis and asked, "What are you doing?" Elvis's eyes were bloodshot and when he looked at Gu Mingming, he felt like his heart was aching. He squeezed out a sentence from the gaps of his teeth, word by word, "Let me destroy this harmful thing first. Then you can punish me, all right?" Gu Mingming was taken aback when she met Elvis's eyes. She wanted to play a prank but did not want to hurt Elvis and Li's hearts. Chapter 1147. "Hubby, don't be angry, listen to my explanation." Gu Mingming tried to comfort Elvis but Elvis smiled bitterly and said, You have already decided not to want me, right? So I have no right to destroy your things. It's not like that." Gu Mingming shook her head, but Elvis did not give her a chance to finish her sentence. He took a step back and opened his chest as if he was about to die a martyr. He said, "Come on, end me. If I can die in your hands, I can die without regrets." Gu Mingming felt guilty. She did not want to play to this extent. She originally wanted to see Elvis and Li's awkward look, but she ended up making them sad. Gu Mingming directly flew into Elvis's arms and bumped into him. She shook her head and said, "Hubby, nothing happened between you and Leah?" Elvis's back stiffened and he immediately lowered his shoulders. He said, "You are still so kind and soft-hearted. Even after such a thing happened, you still can't bear to kill me? Ha, but what should I do? I can't face you." Gu Mingming hugged Elvis tightly and said, "I didn't lie to you really. Both of you had a fight last night and it was a little fierce, so I used my beast pressure to make both of you faint afterward." Leah swayed his tail and stood up from the ground. He turned around and leaned against the side of the wooden barrel. He crossed his arms and looked at Gu Mingming. He said, "Elvis, don't be so calculative. Anyway, I am the one at a disadvantage. I don't even mind. Why do you mind? Didn't Mingming always want to see such a scene? Let's just take it as a sacrifice to satisfy her." The veins on Elvis's forehead protruded. He looked at Leah coldly and said, "Yeah, right, I almost forgot about you." With that, Elvis stretched out his sharp claws and pounced towards Leah, looking like he wanted to take his life. Leah lowered his body and easily dodged. He then pulled Gu Mingming over and pushed her in front of Elvis. He hid behind Gu Mingming and said, "Mingming, look at him. He took advantage of me and still wants to abuse me. Sobs, 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 I can't live on anymore. If you can't, then go and die." Elvis said and wanted to attack again, but Leah just pushed Gu Mingming as a shield, dodging left and right to avoid Elvis's attack. Elvis was afraid of hurting Gu Mingming, so he tried many times but failed to hit Leah. Gu Mingming was dizzy from being shaken by Leah, but looking at the situation she understood that Leah had reacted and believed Gu Mingming's words, so Gu Mingming could only beg for mercy. "All right, Leah, stop fooling around. Hurry and explain to Elvis. He will get angry if you continue." Only then did Leah pull Gu Mingming into his arms, pinching her little nose and shaking it left and right. His long and narrow eyes were filled with ridicule and reproach, as well as overwhelming indulgence and pampering. "Why didn't I see you being so obedient when you caused trouble? Are you begging for mercy now that you can't clean up the mess? I was wrong, I was wrong." Gu Mingming looked up at Leah with her innocent little puppy face and begged, "Hurry up, Elvis will really flip out if you continue." Leah tapped Gu Mingming's little nose and said, "I will settle the score with you later." Gu Mingming stuck out her little tongue and lowered her head in defeat. Leah, on the other hand, walked 2 steps towards Elvis out of boredom. He wanted to touch Elvis just now, but Elvis dodged away like he was avoiding the plague. Chapter 1148. Leah. Gu Mingming called Leah softly with a, "Why are you adding oil to the fire?" expression as she looked at Leah. Leah poked Gu Mingming's little head, then looked at Elvis with a chuckle. If I'm in heat, I will emit my fox seductive fragrance uncontrollably. I can't even control it myself. Take a sniff, does this cave have my fox seductive fragrance? Elvis was taken aback, then he really sniffed carefully with his nose. No, there really wasn't. A crack seemed to appear on Elvis's face, then an expression as if he had just survived a calamity slowly emerged from the sinister surface. Leah poked Elvis's shoulder again, saying, "Look at the wound yourself, does it look like I bit you when you were flirting? When have you ever seen me bite Gu Mingming so harshly?" With that, Elvis lowered his head to look at the wound on his shoulder. Indeed, to a male this kind of wound was nothing, but one could tell that it was not left by biting when he was in heat. The flesh was already flipped open, he must have bitten really hard at that time. Leah rubbed his own hair again, then gently pushed it aside for Elvis to see, saying, "Have you ever seen anyone scratch out such a deep wound on their scalp while touching someone's hair? This technique, why do I feel like you wanted to fix my head in place then directly blow it off?" Elvis glanced at the wound on Lee's head. Yeah, this was his usual technique. The turbid air in his chest finally dispersed. Elvis looked at Gu Mingming with a complicated gaze. "Xiaoming, come here." Gu Mingming walked over timidly, pinching Elvis's beast-skin skirt lightly with 2 fingers, saying, "I was just joking, I didn't expect you to take it seriously. I was wrong, I won't joke like this again in the future." Elvis poked Gu Mingming's little head, sighing helplessly. "You also promised me the same thing the last time you had a nosebleed." Which meant that her credibility had gone bankrupt. Gu Mingming smiled awkwardly, wrapping her arms around Elvis's waist. "That was because you shouted at me yesterday, that's why I pranked you." Elvis raised his eyebrows. He did not believe that he would yell at Gu Mingming. It was not enough for him to hold her in his palm. Seeing that Elvis did not believe her, Gu Mingming's face darkened and she mimicked Elvis's tone and expression yesterday. "Don't butt in when it comes to males. You yelled at me like that yesterday." The impression was blurry, but Elvis seemed to have said something like that. Rubbing Gu Mingming's little head, Elvis could not be angry at her at all. Just now, he thought that he was going to lose her, so he kept praying to the beast deity that everything in front of him was just a dream. Now he had gotten what he wanted, so why would he be bothered about Gu Mingming's prank? On top of that, Elvis's heart ached even more when he heard that he had shouted at her last night. His Xiaoming should be treasured and listen to the most gentle words in the world. How could he bear to yell at her? Hugging Gu Mingming and kissing the top of her head, Elvis said guiltily, "I'm sorry, I might have gone crazy to shout at you." Gu Mingming looked up at Elvis with a smile, asking, "Then let's treat it as if we're even. You're not allowed to settle scores after this." Chapter 1149. Leah tapped Gu Mingming's shoulder lightly and said, "I didn't shout at you yesterday, right?" Gu Mingming knew that Leah might have seen through her prank long ago, so he was not as agitated as Elvis and she did not feel so guilty towards him. But due to the two-faced nature of her fox, Gu Mingming decided not to fight him head-on. She pulled her lower lip and flipped the wound out for Leah to see, saying, "Guess why Elvis fought with you yesterday?" Leah frowned when he saw the wound on the inside of Gu Mingming's mouth, as if a needle was pricking his heart. "Yes, I bit you?" Gu Mingming hugged Lee's head and kissed him. Leah was first taken aback, but quickly turned the tables around and held the back of Gu Mingming's head to deepen the kiss. He even used the tip of his tongue to gently stroke the wound on the inside of Gu Mingming's lower lip. Yeah, it matched his teeth. When they ended the kiss, Leah was already very sure that he was the one who caused the wound. His heart ached for her, but Leah would not apologize to her like Elvis. Instead, he pinched her little nose and said, "Tell me, what did you do to anger me to the point that I want to bite you, huh?" Gu Mingming's heart ached. She could not admit it. Gu Mingming instantly recalled the scene of Leah asking her if she liked him licking her with his drunken eyes. "You're blushing." Leah looked at Gu Mingming with great interest. He squinted his eyes and sniffed with his nose, saying, "Fox seductive fragrance. Gu Mingming, did I forget something extremely important?" Gu Mingming shook her head and said, "No, no." Leah held onto Gu Mingming's waist and lifted her up. Gu Mingming's lower abdomen was pressed tightly against Lee's body. Lee's smile was devilish and sly, the corners of his lips curved into an ambiguous arc, saying, "You didn't? Why do I feel that you definitely did, and it's very important? Gu Mingming, shouldn't you help me recall it personally?" With the last word, Leah blew lightly into Gu Mingming's ear, causing her to feel numb all over her body. Taking a step back, Gu Mingming bit the corner of her lips and decided to take revenge. Thus he chuckled and said, I deserve to be bitten? Does seeing you cry count? Leah was taken aback and immediately denied, impossible, I have never cried before. Elvis added, yeah, I've never seen him cry before. Gu Mingming's shoulders shook as she chuckled. Then she placed both her hands on Li's shoulders and said with a heartbroken look, I'm going to die soon, right? Ming, am I going to die? Ming, I don't want to die yet. Leah was stunned. He stared at Gu Mingming for a moment before saying, You made it up, right? Gu Mingming looked straight into Li's eyes, then smiled and shook her head. Leah took a deep breath, then held onto Gu Mingming's shoulders with both hands. Forget it. Forget everything that happened from last night to just now. I don't forget. Gu Mingming straightened her neck and thought to herself, Who asked you to tease me, humph, let's see who's better this time. Don't forget? Leah narrowed his eyes and smiled instead of getting angry. He said, Then, let's do something more memorable and erase the old memories. Leah and Elvis had been vegetarians for a long time. How would Gu Mingming not understand what Leah meant by something more memorable? But Chapter 1150. Silly girl. Leah hugged Gu Mingming's waist and said softly, Before we get the love of the sky, Elvis and I will not let you get pregnant. Elvis nodded and said, The snow is not thick enough, just in case I will go guard the cave in trance. Leah hugged Gu Mingming in his arms and gave Elvis a thank you look. The two of them did not say anything else, they had a tacit understanding between each other. After Elvis left, only Gu Mingming and Leah were left in the cave. Leah hooked Gu Mingming's little chin, his long and narrow eyes filled with lust, and he said, Because of you asking for a child, I endured for so long not daring to touch you. You have been torturing me so hard recently, how are you going to make it up to me, Gu Mingming clearly knew what was going to happen next, so she naturally did not dare to challenge Leah at this moment, or else with Li's black-bellied character, he would make her unable to get off the ground for 3 days. Hooking her arms around Li's neck, Gu Mingming smiled in an ingratiating manner and said with arched eyebrows and eyes, I will forget about you crying before, all right? Leah gritted his teeth and said, You are really good at spoiling the atmosphere. Do you think I will let you off just like that? Gu Mingming felt that she had been seen through, but she was not angry and just said shyly, Don't torment me too much, I am scared. Once Gu Mingming gave in, Li's heart itched even more unbearable. He flipped over and pinned Gu Mingming under his body, gently biting her left earlobe and said in a low voice, My little Mingming, do you still remember what you promised me previously? Gu Mingming's face was blank, it was obvious that she had completely forgotten about it. When we were in solder, you thought of all sorts of nonsense and caused your nose to bleed. Elvis and I were so scared that we almost wanted to settle down by the stream. At that time you promised me that I could punish you however I wanted to. Now you want to go back on your word, huh? Li's entire body was above Gu Mingming, giving off a strong sense of oppression and presence. Gu Mingming twisted her body, trying to fight for more space for herself but to no avail. Leah was bullying Gu Mingming with a force that could not be pushed away unless she hurt him, knowing that she could not bear to hurt him. Gu Mingming could not even breathe smoothly because of Leah. She blushed and said, How long has it been, you still remember it? Li's kiss landed lightly on Gu Mingming's lips. He did not go deep and just kissed her lightly. I had originally forgotten about it, but you refused to change. I feel that if I don't teach you a deeper lesson and make you remember my sexual orientation, your little brain will always be filled with all sorts of nonsense. Gu Mingming's lips twitched. Fine, this time he was in the wrong again. Gu Mingming pulled out her arms and wrapped them around Li's neck. She asked coquettishly, Then tell me, how should I punish him? Do you like me? Leah suddenly asked. Gu Mingming took the initiative to offer her own lips and kissed Li's Adam's apple. She said, I like you. Then, lick me. Leah smiled extremely devilishly, a teasing look in his eyes. Gu Mingming was stunned and blushed instantly. She said, Aren't you drunk? Why do you still remember? Chapter 1151. Let's change another one. Gu Mingming begged for mercy. It's too embarrassing, I can't do it. Leah stuck out his tongue and licked Gu Mingming's left earlobe. Gu Mingming, do you know? I really like this mark. It's on your left ear and it's whispering sweet nothings to you on behalf of me every day. It's chattering non-stop. Then Li's kiss landed on Gu Mingming's eyes. Gu Mingming instinctively closed her eyes and allowed his lips to gently cover her eyes. Then, with a wet sensation, Gu Mingming knew that Leah had used his tongue to lick her eyes. I also like your eyes, they're so clean and transparent. The radiance in your eyes makes the stars in the sky dim and dull. When my shadow is reflected in those eyes, I feel that I'm the happiest person in this world. Li's lips moved downwards and landed on Gu Mingming's little nose. He kissed it and then bit it lightly. The tip of his tongue brushed past it and Gu Mingming laughed out loud from the tickling. I like your nose, especially when you're so proud of yourself. It's so vivid that I can see your mischievousness and cuteness, so I can't help but want to pinch it. Oh right, I also like the joyful smile on your face when you use it to smell the food I cooked for you. He then moved downwards and kissed Gu Mingming's lips lightly. He pecked and kissed 7 to 8 times before finally covering her lips deeply. His nimble tongue tangled with the tip of her tongue in her mouth and danced with hers. I also like your lips. When you laugh, when you're playing around, when you're aroused, even when you're scolding me, every note they make fascinates me, makes me sink and makes me unable to control myself. No matter where I am, as long as this little mouth calls out to me, even if we're separated by mountains and oceans, I'll still fly towards you, disregarding everything. Holding Gu Mingming's little hand, he brought it to his lips and kissed it. Then he bit each of her fingers and sucked on them gently. I like your little hands. When you wave at me, when you hug me, when you hold my hand, and when you twist my ear. It clearly transmitted your warmth to me and warmed my cold soul. Leah kissed Gu Mingming's entire body. Every time he kissed a spot, he would say a reason and a sentence of love. Gu Mingming's maiden heart exploded like popcorn and she felt as sweet as if she was soaked in honey. Mingming, what about you? What do you like about me? Leah circled one arm around Gu Mingming's waist while the other supported the back of her head. With a flip, Gu Mingming laid on his chest. Like what I did just now, lick the place you like, let me know how much you like me, Perhaps it was because the atmosphere Leah had created was too perfect that Gu Mingming really felt that licking someone was not something that was embarrassing or unacceptable. Lying on Li's chest like a cat, Gu Mingming kissed Li's eyes lightly and said softly, I like your eyes. They slanted to the temples and hid thousands of ravines, but they gave me the exclusive love of the 3,000 worldly mortal world just for my deep love. Chapter 1152. Holding onto Li's hand, Gu Mingming kissed his palm. Then she placed his large hand on her face and rubbed it gently. I like your hand too. It's slender and bony with distinct joints. Time and time again, it would support my shoulders when I was helpless and tell me not to be afraid. No matter what happens, it would always prioritize protecting me and taking care of me. Gu Mingming mimicked Leah and kissed almost all over his body. Finally, she laid back on Li's chest and kissed his heart. I like this heart the most. That's because I'm the only one in it. Li's heart was lit up by Gu Mingming's words of love. The sparks connected and formed a prairie fire. Once it started, it could not be stopped. A round of pleasure could not be avoided. The ambiguity was scattered all over the floor and it evolved into a symphony of love and love. Leah had been sober for a long time. This time he was a little more ruthless. Gu Mingming did it 3 times when she was awake and 2 more times after she fainted before he finally stopped. As a result, Gu Mingming was so exhausted that she slept till the sky turned dark. When she woke up, she did not even know how many days had passed. The bruises on her body had already disappeared and her fatigue was almost negligible. If Snake knew that the shocking recovery ability he left for her had been used in such a place, he would probably fly into a rage. You're awake, Leah crawled beside Gu Mingming like a satisfied cat. His thick tail swayed to show his master's good mood. Gu Mingming stretched out her hand and Leah automatically placed his large tail into Gu Mingming's arms. Then he poked Gu Mingming's warm and soft little face with his finger. Are you hungry? The meat is already cooked and placed in the snow at the entrance of the cave to be frozen. You can eat it after heating it up. Gu Mingming shook her head. I just woke up, I don't feel like eating. Leah nodded. Then I won't eat it. You can touch me first. Gu Mingming paused. Did he start the topic of touch me after lick me? Gu Mingming was really scared. She did not know what shameful topic Leah would come up with next. She hurriedly let go of Li's large tail and turned around. Gu Mingming wrapped her arms around Elvis's neck. Hubby, I'm thirsty. Then he took out a small bamboo cup and poured a cup of water for her. I was afraid that you would get a nosebleed due to excessive internal heat, so I kept the water boiling on the fire in the cave. But it's a little hot. Drink slowly. Gu Mingming replied. She lifted the cup and started sipping the water. Leah knew that she was shy and did not continue teasing her. After all, Gu Mingming had not eaten before making love. Now that she had slept so much, her stomach must be empty. So Leah got off the bed and went to the entrance of the cave to retrieve the stewed meat that was frozen in the snow. He placed it in the pot and heated it up. Not long after, a fragrant aroma filled the air, making one's mouth water. Gu Mingming sat at the table and ate the meat. She drank 2 mouthfuls of water. It was bland and tasteless. She poured herself a glass of wine to go with her meal. After Elvis and Leah experienced their first hangover, their expressions changed. They wanted to run away from Gu Mingming the moment they saw the red liquid in Gu Mingming's cup. Gu Mingming took a sip. Then she smacked her lips. Meat stew goes with wine. The more I drink, the better it feels. Tisk, no one else can do this, aside from the topic. Hurry, there's no time. Hurry up and board the train. Look at the car plate. 4927792773. Get the train manager to check your ticket. Babies with more than 800 fans can enter the VIP cabin to enjoy the special treatment of the fragrant meat. Note: this train does not go to the kindergarten. Children who are going to the kindergarten, please do not sneak onto the train. This train does not go to the kindergarten. Children who are going to the kindergarten, please do not sneak onto the train. Chapter 1153. The 2 males looked at Gu Mingming in horror as she finished the entire glass of wine with gusto. They poured another glass as if they had not had enough. Xiaoming, are you feeling unwell anywhere? Elvis clearly remembered that he felt lightheaded after drinking that glass yesterday. His brain was filled with all sorts of thoughts, but he could not sort them out. The large amount of fragmented information directly broke his nerves and he could not get up again. He could not remember how he got up and what he did after that. So, according to their body proportions, the same amount of wine that caused him such a heavy injury could be fatal to Gu Mingming. But why did Gu Mingming look like nothing happened to her? Just that her cheeks were red like a tempting apple. Gu Mingming knew that Elvis was scared by the wine. After the previous experience of teasing him to the point that he almost dragged Leah to die to atone for his sins, Gu Mingming did not dare to tease Elvis anymore. So she answered honestly, wine is a beauty tonic. The amino acids, minerals and vitamins contained in it can be absorbed directly. Drinking a little every day can help you beautify your skin. But Elvis frowned. After all, his first experience with wine was not that great. Gu Mingming knew what he was worried about. She smiled and said, everyone has different levels of allergy to alcohol. Yeah, for example, you are the type of person who will pass out after 1 glass. Leah is slightly better. Although he only drank 1 glass, he at least knows what he did when he was drunk. As for me, haha, I should be invisible in our world. But here. Gu Mingming lifted her left leg and stepped on the stool. She placed her left hand, which was holding the wine glass, on her arched knee. She lifted her chin and smiled in a bold and unrestrained manner. The emperor calls for me but refuses to board the boat. I call myself a god of wine. Actually, Elvis and Leah did not understand what she was saying. But Lee's gaze was shining and burning hot. It was the feeling of a cult member meeting their leader. Gu Mingming was taken aback. She looked at Leah and asked, why are you looking at me like that? That sentence just now was also part of the esoterica, right? Although it was a question, Leah used a definite tone. Gu Mingming was taken aback for a while. After thinking for a while, she recalled that Leah was the 9th highness of Sauter, and Sauter was a weird tribe that had worshipped 300 poems of the Tang dynasty for 1,000 years. Clearing his throat awkwardly, he nodded and said, yes, it should be. Leah knelt on one knee and held Gu Mingming's little hands with both his hands. He looked at Gu Mingming with eyes full of anticipation, as excited as a Samoyed that suddenly saw a meat bone after starving for a few days. His furry tail wagged furiously behind him and his longing gaze made Gu Mingming feel that rejecting him was a crazy thing to do. Clearing her throat, Gu Mingming forced herself to recite the entire poem again. Li Bai wrote 100 poems in one go, sleeping in a tavern in Chang'an City. The Son of Heaven called me, but I refused to come on board, calling myself an immortal of wine. Leah cupped his hands over his heart and frowned. He bit his lower lip lightly with a flushed face and exerted more force on his hand, as if his heart would jump out if he didn't do that. Gu Mingming held her forehead and asked, Are you all right? You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.